Good evening. We are calling the meeting to order at 5:04. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight that all can participate remotely via Zoom or in person here in the boardroom. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. The open session part of the meeting agenda begins at 7 p.m. Before going into closed session, the board is available for public comment on closed session agenda items. Ms. Green, is there any public comment on closed session items?
There is no comment on closed session items.
Thank you, Trustee Water. Did you receive any public comment on closed session items?
I did not receive any public comments on closed session items. I'm a little.
Thank you. Seeing that there are none, the Napa Valley Unified School District will now adjourn into closed session. We will see you all at 7 p.m. Good evening. We are reconvening to open session at 7:13. Good evening. I'm Jankowitz, and this is the Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Education. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight that all can participate remotely via Zoom or in person here in the boardroom. Interpretation in Spanish is available for tonight's virtual board meeting, as it always is. Our interpreters are Paul Hurtas and Francisco Meza. May we have one of the interpreters translate the directions on our English channel so our Spanish-speaking families can hear the instructions.
Buenas noches. Esta reunión de la mesa directiva del Distrito Escolar de Napa Valley va a empezar esta noche y vamos a ofrecer interpretación en el idioma español, para lo cual puede acceder mirando en la parte baja de su pantalla, le hace un clic al icono del globo terrestre y selecciona la opción Spanish para español. Inmediatamente usted empezará a escuchar toda esta reunión en el idioma español. Gracias.
Gracias. May we please start with an attendance roll call from Julie Pressey, Executive Assistant.
Yes. Student Board Member Gomez.
Present.
Trustee Jankowitz.
Present.
Trustee Gracia.
Present.
Trustee Water.
Present.
Trustee Riser.
Present.
Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
Present.
Trustee Chu.
Present.
Quorum present.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Napa Valley Unified School District Board meeting. Public participation tonight and moving forward will be both virtual, online, and in person here in the boardroom. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. Trustee Water, would you please report out on closed session items?
Yeah, there are three. I'll do expulsions first. D1A1, the board recommended for the expulsion for student 12082022A.
Move to expel.
First by Trustee Gracia. Second by Trustee Riser. Ms. Prezi, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Jankowitz.
Yes.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
Aye.
Trustee Chu.
Aye.
All
Thank you.
right. All right. And then there's D1A2. The board recommended for the expulsion for student 12082022B.
Move to expel.
First by Trustee Gracia. Second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Prezi, may we please have another roll call vote?
Trustee Jankowitz.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Trustee Water. Did we get an aye?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
Aye.
Trustee Chu.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, in closed session, the board approved an agreement to resolve a student's educational claims And this was on a motion by trustee Gracia and second by trustee Riser. The board voted 6-0.
Thank you, trustee Water.
You're welcome.
And we move on to the flag salute. Student Board Rep Gomez, will you please lead? Oh, well, sort through this without the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is live streamed and recorded via Zoom and will be archived on the district YouTube channel. For a detailed review of any meeting agenda item, the archive video can be referenced and located on the district webpage at nvusd.org. The public can join the virtual board meeting remotely via Zoom. Participation instructions and the process for public comment can be found on the district webpage. I'd like a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Chu, all in favor.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to approval of the minutes. May I get a motion on November 10th?
Move to approve.
First by trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by trustee Chu. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we have, I believe, you need to abstain. Trustee Gonzalez Mars for November 10th.
That was yes, you are correct.
Okay, thank you very much. And approval of the minutes for November 17th.
So moved.
First by trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by trustee Chu. All in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain. Motion passes. And now we're on to recognition of visitors and employee organizations.
I do not see, make sure I'm not missing anybody. I don't see any of our leaders of our employee organizations this evening, so I think we're good.
Okay, wonderful. We are moving on to recognition of students of the month. I'd like to express our continued gratitude to the Napa Valley Ed Foundation and Jennifer Stewart and her team for their support of our Student of the Month program. And I'd like to welcome Principal Lopez. Are you ready to present your November and December Students of the Month?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Massetti. Thank you for this opportunity once again to recognize some of our outstanding students at American Canyon High School. Our first Student of the Month for November is Ava Acosta. Ava Acosta was nominated by her drama teacher, Miss Hart. Ava is an outstanding student, but more importantly, she is a compassionate and involved participant in school and community activities. She's a student athlete, swimming year-round with the club and ACHS teams. As a natural leader and community servant, Ava serves as an officer for the Key Club and is co-president for the Thespians Drama Club. This is her second year as a Link Crew leader, but has been taking her role seriously as a role model since her sophomore year. Ava organizes events, has a passionately inclusive heart, and has a genuine interest in making the world a better place. She hopes to pursue a career as an attorney, utilizing her passion for performance, writing, and social justice. She plans to become an environmental lawyer, working to fight climate change as well as food insecurity and national disasters that disproportionately affect the socioeconomically disadvantaged. Ava is one of the most deserving students for Student of the Month, and she also was a student participant in the district's Student Advisory Committee last year. So congratulations, Ava.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lopez, for reading that out. I had no idea that's exactly what she wrote, so that's really nice of her. Hi, everyone. My name is Ava Acosta, as Ms. Lopez mentioned, and I'm a senior at American Canyon High. I will admit, when I was first called into Ms. Lopez's office last week, I was really worried that I did something wrong, and I had no idea what it could have been. But you can't imagine how shocked I was to find out that that was the furthest thing from the truth. Firstly, I want to thank Dr. Massetti and the entire district school board for recognizing me. I'm incredibly honored to represent American Canyon High as their November Student of the Month. And to Ms. Hart, I couldn't thank you enough, my amazing drama teacher who made all of this possible with her heartwarming nomination. And a big thank you to my family who, with their constant loving support, have encouraged me to push my ambitions and achieve anything I set my mind to. Coming to American Canyon High my first year of high school, I was most definitely intimidated by the sheer size of the campus and even more so the students. But through the years, I've come to realize just how lucky I am to attend a school just like this. From the active leadership team that plans activities throughout the year to the custodians who tirelessly work to keep our campus clean. It is a harmonious relationship that I am great to have. One that offers so many enticing electives, including our outstanding drama department, sports programs, and student-led clubs, where I have been grateful to meet so many amazing people that I can now call my friends and family. Holding officer positions in drama and Key Club and Linku, just to name a few, have allowed me to develop strong leadership skills such as delegation and organization, as well as personal development such as caring, kindness, and empathy. Spending well over 2 years in these clubs has allowed me to higher education programs. Am I back? Okay, I'm sorry.
You're back.
I'm so sorry. For students to academically challenge themselves through a wide variety of honors courses, advanced placement, and even dual enrollment through NVC. Some of my favorite classes to take include AP Environmental Science, AP World, and Spanish Honors 3, because I found them incredibly interesting, immersive, and rewarding. As I close out my few months of my high school career, I will forever cherish the unforgettable experiences, everlasting memories, and meaningful relationships that I've been able to accumulate during my time here at American Canyon High. They've enabled me to succeed and thrive socially and academically. And while I'll be sad to graduate in June, I can rest assured knowing that I'll be properly prepared for all my future endeavors. And I don't have a particular university that I want to attend, but I am interested in studying at USC or Cal Berkeley, majoring in political science with hopes of advancing to graduate school for law. I also wish to continue serving my community and engaging with campus organizations. Words cannot express just how appreciative I am to win this award, and truly, it demonstrates that hard work doesn't go unnoticed. And I hope by staying involved in my community, I can also influence others to do the same, leaving my legacy here on campus. Thank you all again for your time and consideration and allowing me to speak here today. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you very much. Principal Lopez.
Did she fall
Principal
off?
Lopez, are you possibly on mute?
Looks like she fell off.
Can't see. Okay, you know what? Until she gets back, Principal Hutchinson, are you available to introduce your 2 students of the month?
I am. Can you all hear me? I'll start now.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Great. I want to thank Dr. Massetti and our Board of Trustees for the opportunity to recognize our vintage students this evening. First, I will introduce Noah Ewig, one of our vintage seniors. These past 4 years, Noah has taken almost every single AP and honors course that our school has offered. And Noah's interests are in math and sciences, and his favorite class being AP Computer Science and AP Calculus. Noah has also appreciated AP English very much, which demonstrates that he is a well-rounded student. He is graduating in the top 1% of his graduating class, which is amazing. Outside of his academic excellence, Noah has been a part of our water polo team and our swim team during his time at Vintage. And in addition, he is also the president of our Vintage High Chess Club. Noah really likes building things, and his experience in our woodworking classes was a place where he could explore this interest. He plans to attend a 4-year university after graduating from Vintage, and he plans to major in mechanical engineering. Congratulations to Noah.
Thank you, Mrs. Hutchinson. Hi, everyone. My name is Noah Ewig. I'm a senior at Vintage High. I'd first like to thank Dr. Massetti and the board for recognizing me today. And I'd like to acknowledge a couple of teachers who have been especially influential for me and have made my academic journey that much more special. And their names are Mr. Merkner and Mrs. Lamont. They're two of my more recent academic influences, but their genuine enthusiasm for teaching has, in both math and English, respectively, has had a really significant positive impact on my education, and I wouldn't be where I am without them and many teachers like them. As I move through my senior year and look towards attending a four-year university where I plan to study mechanical engineering, I'm especially grateful for the support of my family throughout my education. They've been a huge part of my academic journey every step of the way. I've been really honored to be a part of Vintage. I've really had a great experience at Vintage High with the academics and on the water polo and swim teams and with student-led clubs. It's all been a great experience and I'm grateful for it. And it's gonna, I think, be very helpful moving forward in whatever the next chapter is. So once again, thank you to Ms. Hutchinson, thank you to my counselor, Ms. Magdaleno, and thank you to Dr. Massetti and the board.
Thank you very much.
Should I continue or?
Yes, why don't we finish and
Okay.
we'll go back to Principal Lopez.
Okay, will do. The next student of the month that we are recognizing for Vintage High is Laura Ortiz, also a senior in our class of 2023. Laura is determined, generous, and kind, and she loves giving back to her community. Laura has spent multiple hours volunteering at the elementary school where she attended at Pueblo Vista. And in addition, she's currently completing an internship at a local hotel restaurant where she's learning about the culinary world and learning about and enjoying baking, but also learning business and management skills as well. Laura has been a part of our AVID program for all 4 years at Vintage High School, and she's also been a part of the program at Redwood Middle School where she attended previously. And AVID has helped her tremendously to prepare for college. She will be the first in her family to attend college, and she's eager and excited to start this journey and to be an example to her younger siblings. Laura plans to attend a 4-year university after she graduates from Vintage, and she has very broad interests and can see herself exploring various fields, including biochemical engineering, business management, astrophysics, and culinary arts. We're excited to see the decision you make and what you do in your future endeavors, Laura, and congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. I'm Laura Ortiz, and I would like to take the opportunity during this time to thank everyone who has contributed to or influenced both my success and the person I am today. I would first like to thank the board and Dr. Massetti for recognizing me for Vintage High School Sports Student of the Month and for this opportunity to speak with all of you today. I would also like to thank my teachers who have helped me not only throughout the college application process, but throughout these past 4 years of my high school experience. I would like to thank my AVID teacher, Ms. Pastula, who has been my teacher for 4 years and has taught me a lot about myself and the world around me. She has helped me find colleges, prepare for them, and be able to condense my interests so I was able to narrow down my career interests. I would also like to thank my current English teacher, Ms. McGrath, who helped me honestly and effectively revise and edit my college essays, and for ensuring that I share my story with colleges too. I would also like to thank my cousin, Martha Calderon, for informing me of opportunities that not only helped educate myself about things like FAFSA, but also inform me about the reality of college costs and more. Finally, I would like to thank my family for being my foundation and inspiration to succeed and move forward in life. I look forward to later attending either Sonoma State or UC Davis in biochemical engineering or business management. Once again, I would like to thank everyone who has contributed to my success, recognized my work, and granted me the opportunity to have the honor of being Vintage High School's Sports Student of the Month. That's it, sorry.
Principal Lopez.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Right,
There
thank
you are.
you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. And
No worries.
congratulations again, Ava and Laura and Noah. Our next student of the month for American Canyon High School is Gabriel Cueva. Gabe was nominated by his counselor, Ms. Hernandez, and Ms. Hernandez and our leadership teacher had a few comments about Gabe that I would like to share. Not only is he a straight A student, Gabriel has taken several courses at Solano Community College during his tenure at ACHS. He's part of the leadership program and a student athlete. He's always willing to help others in class and has a calm overall demeanor. And he was a valuable asset last year as a junior escort in the graduation of 2022. Ms. Harris had to say that Gabe is new to our leadership family this year. While some students are hesitant or don't get involved right away, this has not been the case for Gabe. He has successfully provided ideas and hours of support and has only been one semester. He is very contributive member of his current committee in preparation for our holiday breakfast and upcoming Spirit Week. His committee leader appreciates his ideas, willingness to volunteer, and joy that he brings to class every day. In addition, he volunteers to do things outside of his committee, proving himself reliable and considerate. There's only one thing I would change about Gabe. I wish he would have joined our leadership family before his senior year. Congratulations, Gabe.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gabriel Cueva. To start off, I would like to thank Dr. Massetti and this district school board for recognizing me as December Student of the Month. I would also like to show my sincerest gratitude to my counselor, Mrs. Hernandez, and my leadership teacher, Mrs. Harris, for believing that I deserve this honor, and to my friends and family for supporting me along the way. Before coming to American Canyon High School, I was afraid of not fitting in and being lost in high school in general. Transitioning from a small private school from another city with only 36 kids in my 8th grade class to a large public school with over 400 freshmen came as an overwhelming experience. However, the moment that I stepped foot onto campus, I felt at home instantly. Throughout my 4 years in American Canyon, I was able to excel academically and build good relationships with my teachers and classmates. Whether it be taking AP classes or joining my choice of clubs, ACHS has provided it all. I would especially like to highlight the opportunity to take dual enrollment courses in order to prepare myself for college. Mrs. Hernandez presented it to our class to take the chance to take dual enrollment courses after our freshman year, and I didn't hesitate to seize the opportunity. ACHS doesn't only provide students good education, but also the chance to experience sports at a competitive level. I've been a part of 2 teams at ACHS, swimming and water polo. In water polo, we may not have never been the best, but our team has always had a good time in the water and was able to build an indestructible bond that kept us going. Then in swimming, I'm proud to be a part of the team who were league champs during my junior year, and also being the solo finalist at NCS championships. I plan on continuing swimming into college as it has been a sport that I've been involved in my whole entire life. The countless opportunities that I'm presented here at ACHS has truly been a blessing, as they grant me the luxuries to prepare myself for a brighter future. After my time here at ACHS, I plan on majoring in biology at a 4-year university. I would like to attain my bachelor's of science within 4 years and then apply for medical school. After that, I intend on pursuing a specialty in oncology. I know it's a lot of years to invest, but I believe that ACHS has prepared me well enough to shoot for the stars. Again, my sincerest appreciation to all of you for this honor and for taking the time to recognize me as the Student of the Month for December. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabe.
And a warm congratulations to all of our deserving students. We are now moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. Members of the audience may address the board on any school-related matter that is not on the agenda. The board will not take action on any issue raised during this section of the agenda inasmuch as board action is limited to posted agenda items. Speakers are requested to limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. I do not have any cards here on file. Ms. Green, do I have any public comment on non-agenda items?
There is no public comment.
Thank you very much. And Trustee Water, do you have any public comment on non-agenda items received via email at publiccomment@nvusd.org?
I do not.
Thank you very much. Okay. Board of Education and Student Board Representative reports. Student Board Member Gomez, would you like to start us off?
Yes, thank you. So this past weekend, I was fortunate enough to attend the annual CSBA training for student board members. There were about 100 other students in attendance who represented their respective districts, and I was able to pick up a few things from them as well as the reputable guest speakers who spoke to us throughout the training. It was a great opportunity, and I learned so much about effective governing practices and how I can better carry out the duties of my position. Next, I would like to promote a few events happening this month at the Napa County Library. The first is an NVUSD student spotlight, which will showcase 2 pieces of artwork for each of 12 different students. It's a little bit of a short notice, but this will be tomorrow evening from 6:15 to 7:30. If you're able to attend, you can meet the talented students who created the art and hear the stories behind each piece. Additionally, there's an opportunity to have your own Christmas gifts wrapped, which is really popular. You can bring a maximum of 3 gifts, and they will be wrapped for you for free on Friday, December 16th from 2 to 4 and Saturday, December 17th from 10 to 12. And finally, the monthly meeting for the Teen Book Club, which features LGBTQ themes, authors, and characters, is next Thursday, December 15th. The book currently being read is called Check Please by Gozi Ukaza. Even if you haven't read the book, the club would appreciate you dropping in because they will be starting a new book, which will then be discussed in next month's meeting. And that concludes my report.
Can you please repeat the time at the library for the art exhibit? What?
6:15 to 7:30 tomorrow.
6:15 to 7:30. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay, Trustee Chu.
So last week, I also attended the CSBA meeting. This time, my second time going in person, I was much more targeted and not so overwhelmed. Well, still overwhelming because there's a lot of great topics. But I did focus the talks that I went to on 2 subjects. One is on ethnic studies as we're developing the course, and also on dual enrollment and what that looks like for the future. And it's very interesting, the 2 different pathways that people are looking at. And the ethnic studies, I think that's very relevant to what we're going to talk about today, so I won't discuss that further, except to say that yesterday I had an opportunity to listen to a talk at the Congregation Beth Shalom on ethnic studies in public schools, what it means for the Jewish community by Dr. Michael Harris, and that was very informative for me. So really happy to get out over here to the Napa community to see that and hear people's voices.
Thank you very much. Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
Yeah, I too attended, now my 6th California School Board Association conference. And every time we go, it's a lot of learning, and this is one of the I think the last few ones really where I've attended the conference, and I'm sitting there and just feeling really just proud, because a lot of what's been saying is it's a best practice. We're doing that. We've established that. So I think at some point we were not complaining, but just like, okay, I just want to learn something, what else is new? What's going on? And so I'm just trying to pick some of those sessions, and absolutely learning, having to tap into the sessions in regards to equity and opportunity. So took a session in regards to disabilities and discipline and how do those two intersect, as well as TK expansion, which that's really exciting that that's coming soon, and we'll have a presentation about that later today. And then also in regards to charter authorization and oversight. And then my last session was about ethnic studies, particularly in the community of Coachella, just getting a snapshot of a school district that has implemented actually the program prior to the changes that are coming up. So it's really just a really good opportunity to hear from someone and in the panel sharing their experience of the program. So lots of learning. So looking forward to more.
Thank you very much. Trustee Riser.
Thank you. I also had the opportunity to attend the annual education conference of CSBA. I'm really grateful for that opportunity. There's just such a wide array of offerings, and just really grateful to be able to dive into, governance learning like that for an extended period of time. I think for me, the most impactful session was the first one on Thursday morning, which was from anti-Asian hate to solidarity, how schools can combat racial bullying through ethnic studies. So there were many around the topic of ethnic studies, but that was one that just had a really impressive panel. Professor from San Francisco State who started the hashtag Stop AAPI Hate was part of the panel. And there was just one line from one of the speakers where he said something about the act of strength. A human act of strength is to stand up for the rights of a group to which you do not belong. And I just found that really powerful. And I think that when we talk about ethnic studies, that's what we want to do is educate and raise empathic citizens that are willing to do that, because I think that's what being a good citizen and a good human is, standing up for other people's rights, as well as your own. The keynote speakers were amazing: Brandon Fleming, Tara Westover, and an exceptionally interesting panel on the general session with the entire assembled sort of state leadership of CSBA and AXA, talking about pressing issues in the state of California education. So I was really grateful for that opportunity. Also looking at a session on dual enrollment, special education considerations, legal considerations. So it was that ran the gamut, and I came out hopefully smarter for it. I want to thank Samuel for highlighting the event at the Napa County Library. I will be there because my daughter Maya is one of the 12 featured artists. So very excited to go and see her present her two pieces. And then we're going to rush over to the next thing, which I'm going to share, which is that Napa High's winter choir concert is tomorrow night. So even if you aren't a Napa High choir parent like I am, I can guarantee you a great show. And so I hope some people in the community can join us at both of those events. This concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Trustee Water.
I think I'll be seeing you at some of those events. Yes. Well, let's see. I was doing a lot of post-election community engagement. On November 29th, I checked into the NCOE's Zoom meeting, but it was mostly closed session. So, that was that. And on December 4th, I was at an event up Valley, and I heard the Napa High School singers performing Christmas carols, and everyone was terribly impressed. It was at the Culinary Institute for the Arts. I too went to the congregation Beth Shalom. I'm actually a member, so I went over to hear the discussion about ethnic studies, and it was, quite interesting. Today, I went to Phillips School, where I sat with a parents group, visited several classes, and learned that they have captured several skunks that had decided to hold salons at Phillips School, and disrupting the education that was going on. But it was really a great visit. And the children were really adorable. And one little girl ran up to me afterwards and told me that she hadn't just written 3 sentences, she'd written 4 sentences. So I congratulated her. And yeah, and I too went to the CSBA. It's hyper stimulating. We attended some of the same meetings, but the room was so big that I didn't see you all there. But yeah, the ethnic studies, very interesting, very interesting. And Coachella used University of Michigan as their consultants. And they've been at it for a long time. They have they have 97% Latino student population. So their ethnic studies is certainly slanted towards their community. But I was struck by some of the comments from audience members, and it occurred to me that, we're really ahead of the game, we want to get this fine tuned so thank you for your work over there. We want to get this director ready. We want to get this fine tuned and, before we have to be up and running. And another one I attended was on contentious meetings. And we haven't had such contentious meetings. I think we've had some contentious parking lots, but they did show us that we were we're on the right track, because if you have an organized agenda, so people know what to expect, things can go much more smoothly. So I thought that was really, really good to attend. And I too attended the CSBA second general session, where all the leadership of CSBA was there, including some of our people who do lobbying for us at the state level. And I was really felt vindicated by the shout out that our school district got, that our hard work has been noticed and, approved of. And that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Water. Trustee Gracia.
Yes, so I attended the delegate assembly meeting where I represented the interests of Napa County. And then I attended the California School Districts Association conference in San Diego, where I learned many interesting things. And then I attended part 1 of the district's new trustee orientation with our soon to be new trustee. And then I attended the finance committee meeting.
I too attended the conference. I went a day early to go to the legal symposium with my few of my fellow trustees. And again, there was phenomenal sessions. I attended the How Schools Can Combat Racial Bullying, Ethnic Studies, Legislative Advocacy, a really interesting one on ALCAP and the dashboard, and models on practices for equity-centered decision-making, meeting the TK challenge. It is every year, it is relevant, it is thoughtful. The sessions allow for interaction. It's a valuable tool that CSBA provides for school boards to make them high-functioning school boards to make the appropriate decisions and have the tools to make appropriate decisions. And I too attended the finance committee meeting. So that concludes that portion. Board representative reports. Special Education Community Advisory Committee.
We have not met.
City of American Canyon.
We also have not met.
City of Napa.
We have not met.
And the town of Yountville.
We have not met.
Superintendent and executive staff, Dr. Massetti.
Great. Thank you, President Jankwitz. Good evening, NVUSD trustees and community. You've heard a lot about the California School Boards Association Annual Education Conference. It's always a pleasure and a great opportunity for learning for the governance team, along with the executive team, to attend this conference as we learn about what school boards and district leadership in school districts across the state will be facing in the next 1 to 2 years. And we heard a lot about topics that NVUSD has been addressing over the course of the last few years. I had the pleasure of attending the new trustee orientation with our future trustee, Juliana Hart, who's here in the audience tonight. So it was a pleasure to engage in learning with her. I always appreciate the new trustee orientation that they provide there. I also was invited to speak. The AXA attends as sort of as an attendee and participant at the CSBA annual conference. And I was invited to speak to the AXA Superintendent Advisory Council regarding our work on charter schools. I also was able to present, it was standing room only, around effectively using superintendent performance evaluation to advance the work of the district by tethering superintendent's performance evaluation to board annual priorities. And we got a lot of follow-up and demand for that. So it was great. And I appreciate Trustee Gonzalez sitting alongside me and giving sort of the trustee testimonial around that. We both experienced the fact that many school board members and superintendents found this to be an area of need and saw our model as a potential exemplary model for them to put into practice. Like Trustee Water stated, I was invited to also present and serve on a panel around governing during challenging times. And we were able to highlight our work around how we use our agenda as a framework to make sure that there's transparency and clarity for the public, which again, helps and assists as we govern around difficult and challenging topics. And was really proud of our team that presented on compensation and salary formulas during a declining enrollment. Again, a topic that we've been versed in. The entire state of California is dealing with this topic at this time. I was standing room only in that room as well. And I know Assistant Superintendent Rob Manguala received a lot of follow-up requests on the design and methodology that he uses to ensure that we are keeping the district the right size in response to the continuous declining enrollment. So I want to thank the team who presented there. And then I want to echo, it was greatly appreciated that the Napa Valley Unified School District during the general session did get recognition by the California School Boards Association and ACTS. I think it's been stated by some of the trustees regarding our work related to charter authorization. So that was very affirming. I do want to take just a couple minutes to, this is the latest board meeting since the election results have become official for our 2 school bond measures. We did receive the final results for Measure A1 and Measure A2. And based on these results, as many of you know, Measure A2 passed in American Canyon at 65.68%. The measure was supported overwhelmingly by the American Canyon community. So I want to congratulate them and thank the community for all of their efforts around that. That's going to render $25 million for American Canyon schools, the 5 schools that we have in American Canyon. And it also appears that while Measure A1 was supported by the majority of Napa voters, 54.62% voted yes. In order to pass a local school bond measure, you need to have over 55% of the vote. So we just fell a few votes short of the supermajority needed to pass that school bond. And that will present challenges for us as we address the aging schools within the city of Napa. But despite that, I want to say that we are extremely proud of the effort so many put forth to support our schools over the course of the campaigns. The campaigns were made up of volunteers. It included parents, teachers, support staff, administrators, and even Napa and American Canyon students suited up and showed up for the campaign. The campaigns always present an opportunity to educate thousands of people about the needs of our aging schools, about the lack of facilities funding from the state of California, and it presented opportunities for us to answer lots of questions about how the money would be spent. We tried to have a very transparent and clear plan around that. The campaign reached out to voters throughout the district, and this was especially important as a small percentage of voters have their children in the schools. I think a lot of the times people think that parents are the primary voters. It's actually not true. They are less than 5% of the vote. So it's important to be able to connect with people who are not currently connected to the school system and make sure that they have an understanding around how school finance works and how California expects local school districts to solve their facilities issues with local bond measures. We're very proud of the work that we've done. We still have a lot more work to do. All of our students in the NVUSD community, every single child deserves a quality facility. And we look forward to beginning the work needed to continue the upgrades of American Canyon schools that will be possible there. The community made it possible there through the passage of A2. And we're going to have to continue to use our limited resources to make essential repairs to Napa schools as they arise and as we are able. We will continue our planning. We will make adjustments as necessary, and we will continue informing and educating the community about the need to support local school bonds for the children in the community, because this is about the children. So my last point here is this is our last business meeting. We have one more organizational meeting, but it is our last business meeting. We will say goodbyes to our current board president at the organizational meeting on December 15th. But it is the last final meeting, formal business meeting that President Jankwitz will preside over. And we want to thank her for all of her leadership. We'll give you your formal goodbye next Thursday, but thank you again, because this is a nice chunky agenda for you to preside over in this last meeting. And then lastly, I just want to say happy holidays to all of the families in NVUSD and to all of our staff. It's great that our community has a 3-week break ahead, and I really hope that they have the opportunity to rest, relax, and enjoy time with family and friends. With that, I'm going to prompt my assistant superintendents to provide reports regarding the work that's happening in their respective divisions. And we're going to start with Assistant Superintendent Dana Page, who oversees human resources.
Right. Thank you. Good evening, members, Board of Trustees, Dr. Massetti, and Student Board Representative Gomez. So tonight, I'm excited to highlight the expansion of our onboarding activities, which is an element of board priority number 6. We have always held employee meetings for classified employees monthly as they're hired throughout the year. These meetings typically focus on completing hiring paperwork, benefits, reviewing board policies, and employee handbook kinds of things. CSEA is also present to speak about representation by the union. Due to time constraints, we've always been unable to go kind of deeper than that. It's a lot of kind of compliance and paperwork oriented kinds of things. But next week, we will be hosting our first classified employee orientation part 2, where we will get to expand on what it means to be part of the NVUSD team, including understanding the district's strategic plan, the priorities, and their part in it. We'll share more information about professional development and promotional opportunities, as well as answer questions that may have come up in the first few months on the job, which they probably didn't occur to them within just the first few weeks of their employment. We recognize the significant impact of our classified employees on the district, and this extended time with them in their first year is not only essential in and of itself, but it also brings us closer to the priority of the amount of time we spend onboarding our new certificated employees. In addition, our in-person mid-year check-ins with all new employees are well underway. As of today, we've completed 30 one-on-one visits, and we wanted to share some of the common themes we heard from our new employees. Overall, our new employees are very positive and appreciative of the welcome they've received by HR and at their school sites or their departments. The majority have expressed being well supported. Our new staff member, one new staff member reported they've gotten so much support from others that they have felt inspired to give back and support wherever it's been needed by them. Most staff members understand NVUSD's mission, and they have no problem seeing how their work supports that mission. Nearly all employees have said their favorite part of their work is being around students and working on their behalf, which means our new hires truly embody an important part of the ideal NVUSD employee profile, which is to be motivated by purpose, specifically the purpose of serving students. Most employees reported having the tools they needed for success, but also gave us some ideas for additional training that would be helpful, particularly with technology tools and programs. These visits have given us an incredible opportunity to connect with employees, gain insight to our organization through fresh eyes, and help troubleshoot any barriers to their success in onboarding much quicker. So I want to thank Elizabeth Gonzalez and Gina DeLuca for their incredible work in this area, and we look forward to continuing these visits when we return from winter break. And finally, please check out our latest staff spotlight, the last one of 2022, on Oscar Caceres, who is a Maintenance Worker 3 carpenter. He's dedicated and talented. He's a phenomenal tradesman who was nominated because of his pride of work and attention to detail. So we're so happy to have people like Oscar as part of our maintenance team who use their skill every day to help keep our aging facilities in the best shape possible. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Next, we'll hear from Assistant Superintendent Mike Pearson, who oversees operational services.
Good evening, President Jankowicz, NVUSD Board of Education trustees, Dr. Massetti, Student Board Representative Sam Gomez, and members of the NVUSD community. I want to thank you for the opportunity to give you a brief update on operational services. And tonight, my comments are going to be limited to our facilities. So under facilities, with Measure A1 and Measure A2, I would like to also thank everyone who supported either measure. I'm very appreciative of the time and effort I know many of you all spent in the support of both these measures. Specifically, I do want to thank Kasama Lee and Barb Franco, who each ran amazing campaigns and dedicated countless hours to each one of the campaigns. My staff and I have already begun to loosely start the planning and timing of projects to complete in American Canyon. You can't ever start soon enough on these projects. So it's exciting to start that process. In addition, I wanted to bring up to discuss, which I don't normally discuss much about, is our Measure H Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. And the reason I'd like to bring this up is that last night we had one of our 6 Measure H CBOC meetings. And at this meeting, we recognized the following individuals who were terming out after serving 6 years on the Measure H CBOC, which is an extraordinary long period of time for members to be on a CBOC. But in fact, a few members have served a number of times on previous bond oversight committees as well, too. So specifically, I'd like to thank the following individuals for their commitment and dedication to serving in this very important committee, which is completely voluntary. So thank you to Jason Gramlich from American Canyon, who served for 6 years. Scott Warren, who served for 6 years, but also on 2 more years, so a total of 8 years under 2 CBOCs. Richard Beck for a total of 8 years under 2 CBOCs. Skip Kaiser for a total of 10 years under 3 CBOCs. And then and lastly, Kevin Brooks, who was for 6 years under Measure H, but he served as the chair and just did an amazing job of leading and guiding the Measure H CBOC of the last 6 years. So thank you to all 5 of those individuals who recently termed out and did an extraordinary job of serving their time and helping us out and making sure that the oversight of our bonds was looked after marvelously. And if anyone in the audience or anyone listening is interested in serving on this committee, please consider applying to be on a bond oversight committee member. We are in need of new members, obviously, because we have people terming out, and all the necessary information can be found on the school district webpage. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Next, we have Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings, who oversees the Instructional Services Division.
Good evening, President Jankowicz, Board Trustees, Dr. Massetti, and Student Representative Gomez, and the NVUSD community. Last week, I had the pleasure of participating in a learning walk at Phillips Elementary School with a group of elementary principals. We were using an observation tool and rotated through multiple classrooms to observe high-quality interaction. Throughout the district on last Thursday, elementary principals gathered at different elementary schools to identify the elements of high quality student and teacher interaction that were present in the classrooms. Following the class visits, principals discussed how to further implement the items on the observation tool at their individual school sites. This work supports board annual priority number 2. Also in support of board annual priority number 2, over the last 6 weeks, the middle and high school English and math teachers engaged in their first round of learning sprints. Sounds tiring, but it's not. The purpose of learning sprints is to grow our expertise in implementing high quality tier 1 instruction. The learning sprints is a structure to examine which instructional practice or strategies are working and for which students, as NVUSD teachers engage in their good work with students in the classroom. They discuss the impact of small, doable strategies together so that they can build their collective ability and grow as educators. In preparation for the second round of learning sprints after winter break, the secondary instructional support services team and site administrators will be responsive to some of the feedback they received from our English and math teachers so that we can develop common language and protocols to build connections with instructional practice and the impact it has on student learning. We want to thank the English and math teachers who participated. We also want to thank the principals, assistant principals, and district academic specialists for their targeted strategic focus on effective instructional practices and measuring our impact on student learning. Later this evening, you will hear an update from Director Matt Manning and the Executive Director of Special Education, Terry Lynn Rossetti, about our early learning program progress, which is aligned with board annual priority number 3. We are eager to share with you our progress on implementing an excellent early learning program. You will also hear from Director Monica Reddy, who will present on the board policy recommendations related to high school graduation requirements. And lastly, I want to provide a brief update on our progress towards implementing the $5 million California Community Schools Partnership Program grant that we received in partnership and collaboration with 2 local nonprofit organizations, the Napa Valley Education Foundation and On the Move. Our focus is on blending school and community resources into a unified, comprehensive system of interventions and supports that will transform the school communities for students and families of Phillips, Shear, McPherson, and Snow. These 4 elementary schools will complete a needs assessment in the coming months as part of this process. A steering committee has met to develop the job description for the position that will lead this work at each site. I want to thank Director Sarah Knox and Student Support and Wellness Coordinator Kristen Nelson for their ongoing effort to launch this work that will provide critical resources for these 4 schools. Before I conclude my report, I just want to wish everyone a warm and wonderful holiday season. Thank you to everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Andrew Jennings. And we have Assistant Superintendent Rob Manguala, who's online this evening. Mr. Manguala, would you like to provide a report? He oversees the Business Services Division.
Good evening. Since I will be presenting later this evening about our first interim budget update and the new arts funding under Proposition 28, I will not provide my regular report update tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manguala. That concludes staff reports. President Jankwitz.
Thank you very much. We move on to the consent agenda. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on a roll call vote unless discussion of item or items is requested by the board member or members. May I please get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'd like to also move, but I would like to pull item C just for brief discussion.
Okay, which one?
Which what number?
IC.
I1
Addendum to agreement between Napa Valley Unified School District and Crescendo Education Group.
3C.
3C.
I3C. I'm sorry, I wrote on it, so I can't see it. There it is.
I3C.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, first by Trustee Water, second by Trustee Gracia. Before we take our roll call vote. Right?
Vote to approve and then.
Well,
we'll go
okay,
through that.
so let's take Ms. Pressy, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Student Board Member Gomez,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Riser,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Morris,
Aye.
Trustee Chu.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pressy. Trustee Water?
Okay, well, I guess a couple of years ago when grading for equity first came up and we got the books. And it was, the height of the pandemic and people were out of sorts. And we got some public comments via Zoom that were quite critical of it. And one of the commenters I gave her my book, Grading for Equity. I never got it back. And she still didn't like it, but we went to American Canyon Middle School, and I just wanted to say that we went to a math class and I saw the best example of grading for equity, where they were using grades to help students understand the lesson, understand how they, where they needed to improve. There wasn't any of this, it was very relaxed. Everybody was feeling comfortable about the process. And I thought this is the way it's supposed to be, because not everyone is going to get the top score. In fact, those are the people who probably don't even need to take the class. The people who are, it's really looking at how you can progress. I thought it was an encouraging way to grade our students.
It was a great book. I didn't borrow yours. I had my own, and I would agree, but I'm happy to lend mine to you.
Okay. You know how I am about losing books.
I do.
But okay, I just wanted to say that.
No, I appreciate that. It's always nice to have validation of some of the.
Well, and some
practice that we
some of
support.
these things, fly out and it's and we crescendo and but it's fun to sort of look back at the some of the fear and uncertainty, and it's working out.
I appreciate your share. Thank you very much.
So, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Second.
First by Trustee Water, second by Trustee Gracia, and we will need a roll call vote. Ms. Pressy?
Student Board Member Gomez,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Riser,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Morris,
Aye.
Trustee Chu.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Presentations and discussion items. We will start with general services, high school graduation requirement policy, update presentation, and executive summary. And I would like to welcome Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings and Director Monica Reddy.
Good evening again. Good evening, President Jankowicz, Board Trustees, Dr. Massetti, and Student Board Representative Gomez, and the NVUSD community. Oh, can you bring up the slides, please? Thank you so much. Every 3 to 4 months, the California School Boards Association, or CSBA, puts forth policy recommendations based on changes in state law. There are policy recommendations on the agenda for later on this evening. Due to the significance of the changes in policy regarding graduation requirements, we are presenting specific information on Board Policy 6146.1, which is focused on the graduation requirement policy and the instructional division's recommendation for the implementation of that policy. Next slide, please. Given the importance of high school graduation requirements and the impact on our students' high school experience, we are presenting an overview of the recent changes in educational code due to Assembly Bill 101 and the resulting changes in board policy. Our Director of Curriculum Instruction and English Learner Services, Monica Reddy, will share how this policy implementation aligns with our strategic and DEI plans and addresses identified student needs. Lastly, she will outline the planning implications and timelines for this change in policy. Director Reddy will continue with the rest of the presentation. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings, and good evening, President Jankowicz, Board of Trustees, Dr. Massetti, and the Napa Valley Unified School District community, both virtually and in person. On October 8th, 2021, the state of California passed AB 101, which adds the completion of a one-semester course in ethnic studies to the graduation requirements, beginning with the students graduating in the 2029-2030 school year. Additionally, AB 101 requires local educational agencies to offer an ethnic studies course starting with the 2025-2026 school year. There are various course models that the state has put forth to meet this requirement. A course based on the model curriculum in ethnic studies developed by the Commission. Second option is an existing ethnic studies course in the district. A third option is an ethnic studies course taught as a part of a course that has been approved as meeting the UC CSU A to G requirements. And finally, a locally developed ethnic studies course approved by the Board of Education. Although there is flexibility to integrate into a UC A to G approved course, I want to read directly from the language of the bill. The bill prohibits a course that does not use ethnic studies content as the primary content through which the subject is taught from being used to satisfy the ethnic studies course requirement. Additionally, I'd like to highlight that this is a funded mandate from the state. Next slide, please. Although this is a new policy, the formation of this legislation dates back to the early 1960s, when students sought the inclusion of courses, pedagogy, and instructional materials that offer diverse history, culture, and struggles of racial and ethnic groups. This student movement has continued and increased with time as students and educators joined with legislators to bring forth this bill. As shared by you all in your reports, there are districts who have adopted and implemented ethnic studies in their high schools. The early research on these districts that offer ethnic studies as a course have demonstrated that students enrolled in ethnic studies show higher attendance rates, lower disciplinary incidents, and improved academic achievement. This is especially true for those we consider to be our at-promise youth. Next slide, please. In addition to AB 101, the graduation policy update presented to you this evening in the policy packet includes a recommendation for the addition of a local graduation requirement. This is a standalone one-semester health course. Given that recommendation, it is important to understand the educational codes as they apply to health education as well. First, the addition of a health course is aimed at improving NVUSD's ability to implement the California state requirements for health education. The California Healthy Youth Act, or AB 329, which took effect in January 2016, requires school districts throughout the state to provide students with comprehensive sexual health education, along with information about HIV prevention at least once in high school and once in middle school. When a school district has a standalone health class, as we are recommending this evening, they must adhere to Senate Bill 224, which requires all school districts include mental health as a part of the curriculum. The California Department of Education has until January 2023, just right around the corner, to incorporate mental health into the state standards. And districts have until January 1st, 2024 to begin teaching this new material when implementing a standalone health course. Next slide, please. This next section of the presentation will provide an overview of the current NVUSD board policy for graduation, how AB 101 impacts board policy 6146.1, and the staff recommendation grounded in the NVUSD goals, student data, and student voice. Next slide, please. I want to highlight three important components of the high school graduation requirements. I want to walk through the UC A to G, California, and local requirements. Second, I want to celebrate our student success with the graduation requirements. And lastly, I want to build our understanding of where AB 101 sits within these requirements. First, our students meet rigorous expectations when they walk the graduation stage. Currently, those requirements are 3 parts. Students complete coursework as required by the UC CSU to graduate from high school. The UC A to G requirements include 2 years of history social science, 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 2 years of science, 2 years of world language, 1 year of visual and performing arts, and 1 year or 2 semesters of a college preparatory elective. Not only are these requirements rigorous graduation requirements that position our students for college and career readiness, they also speak to the whole child, enabling our students to engage in interests and passions. In addition to these requirements, California has state requirements, which are 1 year of government and economics and 2 years of physical education. In addition to the UC and California state requirements, the local requirements add 40 credits for 4 years of electives. In totality, these requirements add up to 220 credits. You might ask yourself, what's a credit? Every semester that a student successfully passes a course with a D or higher, they earn 5 credits. Now, what does that mean for our students? Let's celebrate. Our current high school graduation rate with these rigorous UC, CSU, state, and local graduation requirements is 93.8%. Wow. Congratulations to our students, as well as the staff and families who support them. Now that we have an understanding of our current requirements, what does this policy update mean? The passage of AB 101 requires the addition of 1 semester of ethnic studies to the California graduation requirements, as shown on the screen. Next slide, please. I'm going to give a general overview of the staff recommendation. Then I'm going to break it down into more specific parts over the next few slides. Since November of 2021, Napa Valley Unified School District Instructional Support Services Division has engaged in the sense-making of AB 101 with our staff, students, and community. The Health and Ethnic Studies Steering Committees have reviewed the educational codes for both ethnic studies and health, reviewed the goals and priorities of Napa Valley Unified School District, analyzed the model curriculum, and engaged with the community. Based on our learning and the current implementation of an integrated model for health, our staff recommendation is the addition of 1 semester standalone ethnic studies course, paired with a 1 semester standalone health course. Based on our learning, our preliminary recommendation is that this course would be scheduled in the 9th grade year. The 9th grade year is an important transitional year for students as identified by staff. A course that focuses on their identity and well-being will support their transition to high school and provide a foundation for future exploration in later years. As we work on school culture and connectedness, this class affords us the opportunity to provide students signature experiences at a grade level. Think of going on a field trip to a museum or physical activities in nature and other content-related experiences. By including listening, speaking, reading, and writing, which we've heard lately as we've reviewed our test scores, implementing these in a consistent manner early in a child's high school journey, we are positioning students to be successful in meeting the rigorous graduation requirements I previously outlined. Additionally, there's more flexibility in a 9th grade student's course schedule. Although the final recommendation regarding the grade level will be presented later this year after the 4-year planning committee has the opportunity to conduct course mapping, and the ethnic studies and health committees have the time to flesh out the course of study, instructional materials, and assessments, we will provide more information about this process later in the presentation. Before doing so, it's important to walk our community through why and how the staff have come to this recommendation. Next slide, please. We as a school district that is focused on meeting the strategic goals center our students. Over the next 2 slides, I will show you how this living plan developed in 2018 aligns to our staff recommendation. First, providing students a course sequence that grounds them in their identity and community, as well as supports their mental, physical, and emotional well-being, aligns with key tactics outlined in the strategic plan, specifically goal number 1. A student who has a strong connection to school and self is better positioned for success in all content areas as they prepare for college and career readiness. These courses also afford our students the opportunity to engage in responsive and engaging pedagogy that helps them explore not only their own identity, but their identity as it relates to those around them. Next slide, please. Secondly, NVUSD strategic plan goal number 5 calls for the creation of an inclusive organization. This includes the adults. The inclusion of courses focused on culture, identity, and wellness requires a level of professional development that meets the intended outcomes of goal number 5. By engaging in professional learning experiences, staff gain knowledge and skills and practices that value and center diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as promote high standards in these areas as they engage in teaching and learning in the classroom with our students. These courses pair nicely with the groundwork we are establishing system-wide with Ecosystem of Carino. Next slide, please. Part of the strategic plan is diversity, equity, and inclusion. We went deeper with this plan in adopting a diversity and equity and inclusion plan and created specific guidelines within this for student practices. I'm highlighting 3 student practices that align to the staff recommendation this evening. 7B calls for the examination and broadening of the curriculum to include ethnic studies and ethnic studies units. Calls for the development of guidelines, clarity around process for staff, innovation, and engagement. And lastly, it provides comprehensive, cohesive, and continuous training, which will happen through this process. Next slide, please. At the center of our staff recommendation, students. I'm going to take a few moments to dive into the bigger picture data and bring our student voices into the room this evening. Yearly, students in 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade are given the California Healthy Kids Survey, often referred to as CHECKS. The survey is anonymous, confidential survey of school climate and safety, student wellness, and their resiliency. In considering the needs of our students, staff reviewed the components of the Healthy Kids Survey and the data. Although there is a plethora of data points that are reflective of our students' well-being in the Healthy Kids Survey, the following directly speaks to the needs of our students to engage in targeted and supportive prevention in the area of health. When assessed on their meaningful participation in schools, 23% of ninth graders strongly agreed that they have meaningful participation in school. This percentage is similar for 11th grade students after experiencing 2 years of high school at 20% who strongly agree that they have meaningful participation in school. 53% of ninth graders express that they feel connected to school. By 11th grade, there's a slight drop to 51%. 30% of ninth grade and 36% of 11th grade reported they experienced social emotional distress with similar rates of chronic sadness. And lastly, 9% of ninth graders and 23% of 11th grade students reported regular use of alcohol and/or drugs. We will process these numbers a little bit deeper after sharing the voices of students behind these numbers. Next slide, please. As we engage in instructional work, it's a priority of the instructional support services team to hear from our students. During the 2020-2021 school year, Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings facilitated the NVUSD Student Advisory, which was a cohort of juniors and seniors who worked with Dr. Victor Rios, site principals, and the instructional services staff to identify the current needs of high school students and make recommendations to staff regarding how we can address their needs and support their academic success and well-being. Additionally, throughout the spring of 2021, the Ethnic Studies Committee and the Instructional Support Services staff engaged students in both American Canyon and Napa through small student focus groups. The following feedback shared on the slide and recommendations reflect the voices of students engaged in this work. If you look on the left, their feedback shares that they feel there's not enough emphasis on student well-being within their school day. They express social anxiety returning from COVID and being away from school. They shared a lack of understanding of student hardships by adults in our organization, and they're leading to burnout. Students want to talk about ethnicity and identity. They shared that relationships and listening skills with staff resonate more with students than expert knowledge. And sometimes important or difficult conversations within the context of a classroom where content is prioritized are dismissed or lost. But being students with grand ideas, they also have recommendations. I think you'll see that their recommendations are in line with ours tonight. A program or class focused on preparation for adulthood. And I always wonder what adulthood means to our students. And students to get to know each other within their classes. They want more mental health awareness and support. They want extended time for social emotional learning, coping with their anxiety, and building community within their schools. And lastly, they want training for ethnic studies teachers and all teachers, so we know how to talk about this, not just ethnic studies identity, but how to share power and listen. The following feedback and recommendations reflect the voices behind the numbers shared previously. The California Healthy Kids Survey data, along with these voices, surface a need in our schools. Their recommendations are clear, that they need coursework that supports their well-being and allows them to explore their identity and how they relate to the world around them. Our students need coursework where they feel seen and heard in school. The pairing of health and ethnic studies provides staff a consistent opportunity to address these areas early in a student's high school journey on their path to graduation. Next slide, please. Making changes to the graduation policy is no small task, and it's no small ask. One that we are taking seriously as we support students through their culminating years of TK-12 education in NVUSD. There are significant and important implications when making this policy change that I will walk you through. Next slide, please. First, let me share where we have been, where we are now, and where we are going. This slide provides an overview, and more details will be provided when I share in later slides regarding the work of the committees. Last semester, we started the process by learning. The Ethnic Studies Steering Committee spent time reading and analyzing the California State Model Framework for Ethnic Studies. We listened to focus groups composed of students, staff, and community members. We reconvened the Health Committee to look backward at our previous work and conducted a needs assessment based on our current implementation of health. As we moved into the 2022-2023 school year, we began the professional learning and development of courses. As you will see shortly, this process will continue throughout the school year, and the board will review the recommendations in the spring. Pending the board's decision on this policy recommendation, we will be ready to engage in a 4-year planning committee. During the 2023-2024 school year, we will launch a pilot of the ethnic studies and health courses in 9th grade. Students will opt into these courses as an elective. This pilot allows us to implement, gather feedback, and make adjustments. Overall, this timeline allows for us to develop the course, staff, and or hire, provide professional learning, adopt curriculum, train counseling teams on 4-year planning, update board policy, and support families and students with the transition. Like I said, no small ask, no small task. You may be asking at this point, why are we going in advance of the state? First, when reviewing the goals, data, and voices of our community, there is an urgency and readiness. The urgency is connected to our desire to respond to the needs of our student and staff. Our current implementation of the California Healthy Youth Act, which is an integrated model, is not meeting the needs of our students. Given that, we need to review and revise how we address and support our students with their health. Secondly, there is a readiness due to the prevention and intervention work that NVUSD has implemented, and that is a long list of wellness centers, MTSS, social emotional learning that starts as early as TK. Next slide, please. With our commitment to supporting multiple pathways for students in NVUSD at the forefront of this process, we are including key stakeholders in the 4-year planning process. The committee will meet to develop a 4-year planning scope and sequence for the class of 2028 and those classes that follow. In addition, we will consider implications for other course offerings and a plan for supporting students in continuing pathways. We'll look at student profiles, students who want to engage in AVID, continue their journey in dual immersion, play an instrument in the band, and pursue other interests through other rigorous course sequences and electives, and model what that will look like and plan for those implications. Additionally, this group will consider the master schedule and the staffing implications, as well as training for counselors and communication for our middle school students and families. Next slide, please. The Ethnic Studies Committee is composed of site administrators, middle and high school English and social science teachers. You might wonder why middle school's in there. We can't drop a course in high school without onboarding our students. So I want to express gratitude to our middle school folks who are joining us in this journey to help onboard our students as we meet this requirement in high school. This committee has partnered with Dr. Dale Allender, professor at California State University, Sacramento. He was recommended by the California School Boards Association. Dr. Allender is providing professional learning and support with the course development based on the ethnic studies model curriculum. Picture you see is our teachers highly engaged in this process in August of 2022. Next slide, please. Similarly, the Health Committee is engaged in professional learning and the development of the course. This work will be grounded in and guided by the California State Health Framework and standards. The state has also provided support in the form of an evaluation tool to review instructional materials, which we will use as a guide when putting forth a recommendation to the board. Next slide, please. Tonight's presentation focuses on the policy. Our staff will return in the spring once the committees have more time to finish the course description, pending the decision of the board on this policy, and provide to you a recommendation for the course and the instructional materials, as well as finalize the year in which students will take the course. Next slide, please. I want to close this evening by centering our students. As I listened to the students of the month earlier this evening, and then as an alumna of Napa High School, I share the many interests and passions they pursued over their 4 years. I heard leadership, performing arts, career tech ed, athletics, advanced placement courses that have engaged them and pushed them as they speak of what they want to do next on their journey after they walk across the stage and leave us. I want to assure the board and community that those interests and passions will be an integral part of our design. And although we can't do everything, we will make sure that we design around the student profiles and their passions and interests that I had the opportunity to experience and have put me in front of you this evening and have put those students in front of you as I shared with earlier this evening. Additionally, those students, myself, and the students in NVUSD also deserve us to focus on the health and well-being and help them to develop their identity and community as they walk through our campuses and leave us and go out into the world. Next slide, please. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this policy update forward and highlight the policy, our staff recommendation, and the implications of moving forward with this work. We look forward to returning to the board with updates throughout the process. I look forward to bringing the amazing folks who have joined with us in this work, our staff who are learning and engaging for and with our students. And at this time, we'll open it up for discussion and questions.
Thank you, Director Reddy. Before we move to board comment, Ms. Green, do we have any public comment?
Yes, the first speaker is Johanna Meckel.
Thank you. First speaker.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi. Hi, my name is Johanna Meckel and I live in Napa with my husband and 2 children, one of which will begin in the NVUSD in the fall. While I am in agreement with ethnic studies being taught, as the district develops a curriculum and selects educational materials for ethnic studies, I'd like you to consider these 3 points from Stand With Us, an educational organization based in Los Angeles, which fights anti-Semitism around the world. I was in attendance last night at Congregation Beth Shalom, along with some of your board members, as this was all discussed. Any curriculum and instructional materials on ethnic studies should be able to have these 3 questions answered affirmatively. 1, does it keep anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and anti-Semitic bias out of ethnic studies courses? 2, does it include accurate and constructive education about Jews and anti-Semitism? And 3, does it have strong guidelines about fostering critical thinking and not promoting one-sided political agendas or advocacy of any kind in the classroom? I urge you to use these questions to assess any ethnic studies curriculum and educational materials that will be used with Napa Valley Unified School District, and to reject any that cannot meet these standards. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Green, next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Kim Whipple.
Thank you.
Good evening. I've spoken at numerous board meetings over the last 7 to 10 years in regards to health education. I'm a PE teacher at Napa High and once was the health TOSA. I'm so incredibly hopeful about what is taking place and the potential of adding health education to our high schools. The wellness programs have been very effective, but also are very reactive in their approach. Our schools were not teaching adequate health for the last many years. Adding health education courses is a necessary addition to being a thoughtful and proactive district in educating our students about current health crises. It is my belief that health is the single most important subject that can be taught in our schools. We followed the CDC's COVID guidelines line by line and word for word. Here's the CDC's beliefs on health education. It says, research shows that the school health programs reduce the prevalence of health risk behaviors among youth and have a positive effect on academic performance. Also from the CDC, they say evidence-based, effectively coordinated, and strategically planned school health programs and services are also necessary for closing the academic achievement gap and promoting health equity. Let us also listen line by line and word for word on those CDC beliefs. We are a data-driven district. We care about our scores and we implement programs and interventions when we see scores are not adequate. But teaching involves the whole child, not just the academic child. Success also means learning about who you are and being happy with who you are. It's about feeling safe and it's about building skills to navigate this often difficult world. We have data about our students failing in areas of emotional, physical, and social health. This is our intervention during national crises that can help benefit all students. Every single student will become a better human because of these classes. We desperately needed to implement this course for all schools to be truthfully, honorably, and adequately teach what our board policy states is K through 12 comprehensive health education, topics that the Healthy Kids survey results show that our students are debilitated by. Implementing these programs now allows NVUSD to truly be proactive. The things we as teachers worry about every day can finally be taught. We will teach all the students about violence prevention, nutrition, disease prevention, human sexuality, coping skills, suicide prevention, the list goes on and on. We now get to say that our administrators are actively being responsible for ensuring that health education instruction is provided by appropriately credentialed teachers, in particular teachers with credential and health, whereas for years it was piecemealed together, if even taught at all. We can now ensure that every student that enters school will become literate in the world of health and that they have the tools to practice healthy lifestyles. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Green, do we have additional speakers?
Yes, the next speaker is Justin Hamilton Hull. Go ahead.
Mr. Hall, are you muted?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
First thing is that Merry Christmas to you all. And I know this school a lot, as I've been a lot of school. I think the teacher, the staff, special ed class working very hard, and I hope gonna keep this open spirits. So Merry Christmas to you all.
Thank you. Ms. Green, next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Heidi Zapay. Go ahead, please.
Hello, everybody. Heidi Zapay, parent in American Canyon Schools. Just wanted to take a moment to refocus our attention on the connections to schools that many of our students already have through visual and performing arts classes, and particularly in our American Canyon Schools. As you know, we have a 7-year track of
Heidi, we lost you for a moment.
Yeah, sorry about that. You sure did. You guys unmuted me or muted me again. Sorry about that. Anyway, we have been trying desperately to maintain our visual performing arts tracks in American Canyon through the ups and downs over the last several years. And I just wanted to make the point that the strong connection to schools is not only via an identity class or socio and emotional learning. While those things are important, and I think health class and ethics studies is important for many of our students currently, their electives are their connection to school, are their reason that they go to school, and it is their meaningful participation that gets them to school. So I just want to make sure we are not, paying Peter to pay, what's the thing? We're not stealing from Peter to pay Paul here, because if we're going to start moving kids and not having the opportunities for them to be in their visual and performing arts classes and then forcing them to take these requirements, all we've done is traded one group of unhappy kids for another group of unhappy kids. Do you know what I mean? So I guess at the end of the day, while I understand this requirement and I appreciate all of Monica's aware making work around this issue, we really are concerned that we don't want the implementation to adversely affect students' access to their visual, performing arts and other electives. So please, please do everything we can to make sure the kids still have access every year, freshman through senior year, to continue their visual and performing arts and other electives if they so choose. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Green?
There is no more public comment on this item.
Thank you very much. Okay. We are moving to public comment or board comment. Anybody? Trustee Chu?
So I wanted to share my interactions at ACHS. This happened last year when I was able to visit an after-school program called FLAG. This is the Filipino Life and Generations group. And in that space, I saw them basically touch upon ethnic studies and health altogether. It was quite an interesting dynamic. So I really think that it is a needed class. There was a lot of participation and this is after school. This is not something that our kids had to do. And they were just happy to be able to have the space to talk about those two topics. And mental health is a big issue. And, this is something that I'm really supportive of, having mental health embedded way more than I remember taking in health class when I went through high school. And this is the time to do it. I mean, the pandemic really has hit our students hard and they need support. And they probably needed support before. It was just so much more obvious now. So I'm glad we're going in this direction. Ethnic studies, I mean, what can I say? I represent the most diverse community in Napa Valley Unified. And we don't discuss much of what our community actually looks like in our schools. And one of the things I keep on thinking is, why do we not offer Tagalog as a class? Well, maybe it's not a ADG requirement, whatever it is, no AP Tagalog. I don't know. I don't know enough about the class offerings that would meet the requirements, our rigorous requirements that, I'm very appreciative. And it's really, heartening that over 93% of our students graduate with this degree of preparation for their future. So I love the fact that we do have ethnic studies that will be a standalone course. Very fully supportive of that. I wish would have come a little earlier. But I do also want to bring about something that I had brought up when I first joined the board, which was during that time in the middle of the pandemic, there was a lot of anti-Asian sentiments in a lot of places. And I had a discussion with then President Gonzalez Mares and Superintendent Dr. Massetti about we need to bring a resolution on just some sort of anti-hate message that this is what our board stands for. We will stand up to anti-hate. And I think this is something that one of our commenters, Ms. Meckel, also talked about with some of the dialogue that has kind of surfaced. Well, it's actually always been there, right? The anti-Semitic messaging that we're hearing more now. It's been there. So I think I would like to see us be proactive and bring back a resolution of anti-hate. I know we have a resolution on anti-Asian hate, but I would love to see our school board just say, we need a resolution on anti-hate, anti-bias, all of that, that supports our students, because we are talking about ethnic studies that supports them in understanding themselves and supports the community in understanding them. So if we can consider something like that going forward to help support our students, in addition to having the ethnic studies curriculum, having the health curriculum, I think that will send a strong message to our students that we are there to support them.
Thank you very much. And we can talk about that under future agenda items. Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
We're going down the line.
No, we aren't. Cindy, Trustee Water, I saw you nod, so please.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I agree with you completely. Trustee Chu, and we should. And I did attend the meeting at CBS last night, and I listened to Johanna Meckel talk about some experiences, personal experiences with anti-Semitism that she had, that she'd been through at college. And she's my daughter's age, and they attended the same university. So I'd like to read something from about the law, about the class, from AB 101. Okay. Our ethnic studies class should be appropriate for use with pupils of all races, religions, nationalities, genders, sexual orientations, and diverse ethnic and cultural backgrounds, pupils with disabilities, and English learners. In other words, all of our students. Not reflect or promote directly or indirectly any bias, bigotry, or discrimination against any person or group of persons on the basis of any category protected by Section 220. Not teach or promote religious doctrine. It's there in black and white. That's the law. And I am thrilled that we are bound by this law, because I taught at Napa High School. And Monica, when you were talking about your students and your experiences in high school, I was thinking about, some of my students and their experiences in high school, and some of the great conversations we had, or, around the books we read, books about all kinds of people, the things they learned, particularly reading books like Beloved and Invisible Man. You can learn a lot about American history from American literature. And I kind of miss those days. And last night, the speaker, Dr. Michael Harris, very educated, intelligent person, said that he did support ethnic studies. And he mentioned that when President Biden memorialized the 100th anniversary of the elimination of the Black Wall Street 100 years ago in riots, and who knows how much death that's never been completely determined. And he said that it was embarrassing that he had not known about that. And this is a person who is quite educated. And so he said that we should have ethnic studies, and we should all know about this. It's just our history. And I think it's through it, we can learn what has made our country great. I do believe it is its diversity, and it's the different people. And I'm speaking as a person whose husband, his family came over. They were Jews. They came over on a boat at the turn of the century. His grandmother actually lived in 3 different centuries. She lived to be over 100 years old. And my husband's family kind of met the boat. My father grew up on a reservation in Dakota. He grew up on the Standing Rock. He was half Indian. And oddly, his father was the native. That's not the usual. That's not the usual. So this is important to me personally, but I also think that we are with a good class, and I really welcome the community. I think we should have an open house where people can see what we're doing. Because I think there's, some fear and some uncertainty. We are not in the business of making anyone feel bad about any group to which they belong. That is not what we do. And I think it will equip our students for the modern world. And I think all of us old folks can learn something from it too. I also think students, Sam, I also think a lot of you are ahead of the game. I've noticed how I noticed through the years how much more tolerant my students were of differences in people than a lot of the adults who had them in charge. So I've always I felt that we can learn from our students. We have to learn from our students. And it's a state law, but after attending the CSBA, I really think we have it in our power with our community to create the best course for our students. And thank you for Kim Whipple for calling in. I know how concerned she is about health education. And Kim, I want to thank you for a lot of the things you've done for our students, to promote their mental health, like driving one of my kids to college when she was the first person to go to college. I mean, we do have teachers who go the extra mile. And thank you also to Justin for the holiday wishes, and I'll wish you a happy Hanukkah. And for Heidi, thanks for everything you do in American Canyon, and thanks for calling in.
Thank you, Trustee Water. Anybody else? Trustee Riser?
I'll try to be brief. The words that came to mind for me when I was reading this presentation at home and preparing for the meeting, you said no small task, no small ask, and the words that came to my mind were big shift, big lift. So that's what this is. And thank you for the work you've done thus far. And I know the great amount of work that is to come. This is a long time in coming. I think both pieces of this presentation are really welcome to me. I'm really grateful that we've chosen to do the standing courses. I think Ms. Whipple is right. My experience through my children as Napa students is that the integrated health model has not been effective. It's not been consistent. And I think what we owe our students on both of these incredibly important topics is effective instruction and consistent instruction. I really like the way, it just seems like a natural pairing, the identity and well-being. It just makes so much sense. It's a very elegant approach. And I think the potential impact of doing this with our 9th graders is huge. Just, not to say that a health class and an ethnic studies class will dispel all social anxiety and mental health struggles for our high schoolers, but there's incredible power in identifying that many people have those struggles, because I think there's such a huge component of that is the feeling of isolation, that I'm struggling, but I'm the only one. Everyone else clearly has it together, right? And so I think if we can meet those 9th graders and give them that sort of view and understanding and connectedness, and hopefully also some tools to identify those mental health struggles and address them a little bit, not to say, again, you can't teach away depression, but you can identify and give tools to kids to say, oh, I think this may be what I have, or, oh, I heard about this and it kind of sounds like my best friend. And I just think we can't even really articulate all of the ripples that this shift can have for our students in their identity and well-being. And then it's fascinating to me to see the data about the districts that have already done this class and just the positive data about engagement and discipline and attendance and achievement, I mean, that's the ball game right there. So it's very encouraging. I think that we really have the potential to empower as well as educate our kids here. And I wanted to highlight one more thing from the presentation, which I thought it was so interesting with the student feedback that saying they want teachers that are trained to do this. And I think that ask speaks volumes. And it spoke to me also. It reminded me of, again, I'm not sure which panel it was in, but at the CSBA, but one of the administrators spoke to that about the fear that adults have about starting conversations. And I think that panel discussion was about ethnic studies, but I think it applies equally to conversations with students about human sexuality and, the other things that will be covered by the health course. It can be paralyzing because you're afraid you're going to say the wrong thing. And then in the age of, oh, look, this kid got a video of it in the back of class, or, whatever you might, I don't know. I just think it was so interesting to me that the students are aware that adults need real scaffolding and support and training about how to be smart about this, because, and the last thing I'll say is it connects to our broader district work on high quality interactions, because what we're talking about is we have to get our kids talking and having high quality interactions and meaningful interactions. And if these two courses are not just fertile ground for high quality interactions and fertile testing ground for our teachers on how to facilitate high quality interactions where the teacher's not running the show, we are facilitating and allowing the students to bring their voices, their experiences, and most importantly, their questions in a safe environment. So I think that the potential is enormous here for this to be hugely successful. And most importantly, I think the potential is really there. And I have great faith in our team to get us there. The potential is really huge to positively impact these kids' lives for the rest of their lives. So I'm on board, and I thank you for this presentation.
Thank you, Trustee Reiser. Hold on one sec. Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
All that's going through my mind. It's just like, it's about time, right? And now we have the law to support it. And I know that we're creating that culture within the organization, that culture of cariño, because it is about creating safe spaces for our students to have these key dialogues. Because as I also was pondering about preparation for adulthood, I couldn't help but do some self-reflection, right? And your identity is also about your adulthood. That also is about your mental health too. And I think when you're going through that at high school, what a great time to do that, and not have to wait till college to do that for the students who do choose that path. But what if you don't choose that path? When are you going to get that opportunity to do that? And unfortunately, a lot of our students are learning a lot of that through social media, and we know that's not the pathway for our students to be getting some information when you can be in a room in person with your fellow students to talk about a particular topic, whether it's ethnic studies and in health. And I think I agree, they both go hand in hand. But I think our students might be more ready than our adults because it's taken this long, right? And I think to what Trustee Water was saying, I think the new generations and are seeing, I feel like, just much more and sooner. And maybe the pandemic just allowed, had a lot of them have to grow up a little quicker, or maybe didn't have the connections and didn't grow up as how it should have been. So it's a little bit of both. But I guess what I want to say there is just my focus on a lot of this is mainly our teachers, right? Our staff, and how are we, because that was part of a lot of the sessions and discussions with the workshops that I was part of. It's It wasn't so much about the students' readiness, it was about the faculty and also having the ability to hire the faculty. It's a challenge. It's not going to be easy. It's a challenge. But I think we are ready for that. And I think we can do that. And just looking forward to when we'll be talking about curriculum and materials for that, because I know it's much more than just the reflection of your community. And I know a majority, depend on what area. Yes, you can have your multilingual Latina community, but also our African American, our Asian American, and I know in our Indigenous, and that was a curriculum that I was really excited to learn about that others are doing. And so looking forward to when that time comes.
Thank you very much. Trustee Gracia, do you have a comment?
Yes, and several questions as well. So independent health class is not a new idea. In fact, it is a very old idea. We previously had this class in our district. I know because I experienced it last time it was here. I'm a product of this district, and my health class offered zero value, either in rigor, life skills, or relevant information. It was a colossal waste of time that I could have spent doing literally anything else, and it would have been more productive. Watching paint dry might have actually been a better use of my time than attending the district offered health class that I took at Vintage High School. My concern is that students will similarly not find value in this class, but will be mandated to suffer through it, so as not to subject future students to the torture of taking a class that is less useful than watching paint dry. I continue to support the integrated model that we are currently using, where this subject gets taught as part of PE. If we need to improve our PE instruction, then we should do that. If you say we can't improve our PE instruction, then I don't have faith that we can offer a standalone class successfully. At the curriculum meeting, I asked if this class could have academic rigor and was told that this was not that type of class and that it was all subjective. I reject that idea because if we don't have rigor, then there is no method to tell if these classes are effective or if we are just checking a box to meet a state requirement with no actual learning happening. I have heard nothing tonight which would reassure me that this class won't eventually devolve into a standardless morass with no academic value or measurement for success. If you can't measure it, you can't monitor it. And if you can't monitor it, you have no way to evaluate if it's being effectively taught. I want to be able to check in 1, 2, 3, or even 10 years from now and be able to know if this class is meeting our objective standards or if it is a complete failure like my health class was. What are the objective measurements of success for this health class so that we can objectively measure its success or failure?
Thank you for sharing your experience. I'll start off with there are standards that are the California state standards for health education. In 2008, those standards were approved. In 2019, the framework was redesigned in order to provide an updated framework for health. At that time, curriculum was not approved. However, an evaluation tool, an instructional evaluation tool for reviewing curriculum that aligns to those standards and aligns to that framework are provided to us. And that is those are the 3 specific documents from the state of California that we'll be using to guide this process.
The other piece that we'll be looking at in terms of accountability is looking at our California Healthy Kids data to see if there's improvement, especially around students like drug and alcohol use, students connectedness to school, those kind of in their own well-being. Those are the things that we'll look at to monitor our progress. And that's done every year. So we'll be able to use that as a tool to monitor, particularly if it's done in 9th grade, we'll be able to assess it based on those the 9th grade data year over year.
It appears we have an opportunity to have an ethnic studies class that could be integrated. Would it not just be easier to integrate this class into 9th grade English instead of creating an entirely new program?
So one of the challenges that's outlined in the bill is it appears that there's flexibility. However, later in the bill, it states that it needs to be the main core content in order to meet the state's requirement. So it would require complete revamping of an English course at the expense of some of the content that already exists in that course. And so it is allowable, but there is a loss of something else in that process through whatever course that may be, whether it's a social studies course or an English course. And so we experience that challenge of having 4 options but knowing that the one option that allows us to integrate still requires that the core components of the course are grounded and rooted in mainly ethnic studies. And so that would be at the expense of other components that are already existing and valued within the courses that we have.
I think that's an important point. Trustee Gracia, Director Reddy is outlining that there would be a dramatic shift in order to adhere to that more flexible option in the bill. That would render a dramatic shift in the two content courses of English and or social studies, where the ethnic studies content would have to be more the driver of the course. And that would have tremendous impact on the work of the departments across the district at the respective high schools and in the course development.
If we choose to have two classes as standalone classes, how can we continue to provide elective opportunities for ninth grade students so that they can take band or other music classes without having to go to early flight or late flight?
Thank you. We value those. So one of the things that we don't want to come in advance of the board and this recommendation and your final approval and moving forward. So we haven't put together the 4-year planning committee yet as we wait for that process to unfold. And so dependent upon your decision, we will put together that committee to really look at as you spoke to multilingual learners, what comes up for me in this is looking at the students who have ELD, our newcomers who really need that class to support their entry into our schools and their language development, our students who have IEPs, our students who want to play in the band. And so really looking at what does this mean by adding that in? We have English, we have math, we have PE in 9th grade. By adding health and ethnic studies, what does that mean for a student who wants to take performing arts? What does it mean for a student who also has a two-way immersion class in there? There is more room in the 9th grade. And so there provides more flexibility. But then when you make that change in the 9th grade, we want to look at how does that play out across the 4 years? And as we bring those courses back to you, that's part of why the preliminary recommendation is a grade level, because it's really important to sit down and look at student profiles, hearing some of the interests of our students and looking at those mapped out across, and then maybe putting some of those in front of our students to say, if you're interested in this, here's what your 4-year journey would look like. Give us some feedback on that process. We're not there yet until until this process moves forward with the board, but we will definitely dive into that. I think it's important. Part of the design of that committee is to include our stakeholders. And so we do have AVID, ELD, two-way immersion, and performing arts staff involved in that. Our goal has been to be transparent and open in this process and involve our community in it. They have knowledge and expertise in these areas that they can bring to us when a student engages in something that is a 4-year pathway. And so how do we engage our staff in this process too? And having their voices in the room is partly how we're going to do that, as well as our counselors, who really are the ones who are sitting down with our students and communicating with them and walking them through this and making sure that they're in the room as well. So we have those staff identified. They're just waiting for us to begin that committee. And I look forward to working with them. I know they're very thoughtful, knowledgeable folks and their expertise that they'll bring to the table.
And then I'm concerned about our decision to mandate the class ahead of the state requirement. Could we not benefit from offering it as an elective and further piloting the class in order to better refine it and end up with a better class quality?
So it really goes back to that urgency and responsiveness and that desire to pair it with the health piece and make sure that we're meeting those standards and also being responsive to the demands that our students are making, not demands, but the feedback that they're sharing. It has been a long time coming. As far as our health committee was engaged in this work for a long time and it was put on pause. And so although the state is new to this and adopting it, we have a history of being engaged in this work and not moving it forward. And so we could wait for the state, but we feel like we're positioned to go ahead and move forward with it. If we engage in this process and realize that we're not yet ready, we also have the benefit of slowing it down because we are ahead.
Okay.
And we would consider that. I think it was shared this evening, and I think it's really, really important. And something that we're also keeping our focus on as staff in our department is that it does require professional learning. And we have to be really thoughtful about that and how we support our staff. And so if we move forward with this recommendation for 27-28 and get into this work, we really will be mindful and thoughtful and make an adjustment if we need to.
And that, to be clear, that's the graduating class of 27-28.
And then if we were to keep health class taught in PE, would we be able to extend the ethnic studies to a year-long course?
It is an option to have an ethnic studies as a year-long course. That's not the model that we're recommending to the board, but we do have the option to have a year-long ethnic studies course and continue to integrate health. Considering the challenges that we've had with integrating health and the additional needs of our students regarding health, including the addition of mental health. I too experienced health like you, and there have been many changes that have developed in the needs of our society and our students. And so I hope to present to you with our staff a course that not only speaks to their well-being, but also speaks to their understanding of the science and components behind health and well-being. So we can, to answer your question, have a year-long course. However, that's not the recommendation we're making.
That's all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gracia. Many comprehensive questions. I appreciate that an individual may not have had a positive experience in a specific class decades ago, but in my opinion, that's not a rationale for not addressing the needs of our students with a revised, updated, thoughtful curriculum that addresses much different current needs. We are not approving health curriculum this evening. We are approving policy. It is important to understand that approving policy opens the door to the real gateway of this work. It gives staff the charge to do the work within the context of the approved policy. So I just wanted to give kind of context to what we were doing here this evening. But I do want to add that comprehensive health education is critical to a child's overall well-being. I want to thank the group of educators, including Ms. Whipple and Ms. Franco, that made this a priority. Schools are a key place to holistically promote and improve the mental and physical health of our students, and to allow a safe place for important information and dialogue that will impact lives. Exposures, behaviors, and habits impact the short and long-term health of our students, social, emotional, and physical being. Health class is a critical stepping stone to assist our students maintain, restore, and learn how to acquire functional health knowledge, as well as adopt and practice skills needed for healthy behaviors that will serve them well. One of the best ways to prevent ill health in any form is to educate and expose our students to healthy behaviors and coping skills. The capacity of our students to obtain, process, understand health information and services available are needed to make appropriate and safe health decisions, and ultimately provide the foundation of how to advocate for their own well-being now and throughout their lives. So when considering the complex impact of COVID on our students, an independent health class is a needed tool for their continued support, in my opinion. So I support the policy recommendation. And I would just, as a reminder, we are only approving the graduation requirement policy this evening. And the presentation was given for both ethnic studies and health to provide context to that policy until actual curriculum, teachers, and content has been determined as stated by Director Reddy. But given the content of the presentation provided, you all have said so eloquently so much of what I would have said about ethnic studies, but I just want to share a snippet from a Stanford study that was released this fall on September 6th. A 9th grade ethnic studies class has a remarkably prolonged and strong positive impact on students, increasing their overall engagement in schools. I'm sorry, the type is so small and my eyes are engagement in schools, probability of graduating, and likelihood of enrolling in college, according to a new study of curriculum offered at the San Francisco Unified School District. The findings, which follow up on an earlier research by two of the authors indicating short-term academic benefits of the course, appeared in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The study provides compelling and credible evidence on the power of this course to change students' life trajectories, said Thomas K.D., a professor of Stanford Graduate School of Education and a senior fellow at the Stanford Institute for Economic Policy Research. I am looking forward to the development and introduction of the ethnic studies class curriculum. I support this policy recommendation. And as a supportive comment to those that spoke this evening, it is incumbent on all of us as individuals, learning communities, and as global citizens, not to denigrate anyone. We as an educational community continue to support diversity, equity, and inclusion. This has been and will continue to be the framework within which we teach. Okay.
President Jacob, yeah, thank you so much for those summarizing comments. I just, and I appreciate all of the contributions from the board. I appreciate the work of the Instructional Services Division. You're seeing this item, just to be clear, I just want to be very explicit on timeline, next steps. You've all alluded to it, but I want to be really, really explicit. The school board, well, the staff receives from the California School Boards Association quarterly policy updates. They happen 4 to 6 times a year, and they come to us from the California School Boards Association. The most recent policy update that was considered and reviewed by members of our policy committee just recently included the high school graduation requirement policy revision recommended by CSBA, right? Because CSBA ensures that school districts maintain their policies up to date and are in compliance with any new and changing laws. So CSBA included the ethnic studies graduation requirement as a recommended change in this latest quarterly update, because if school boards do not approve that recommended policy update in alignment with the new assembly bill, then why would staff proceed with course development, curriculum development, professional learning plans if they don't have the assurance that the school board has approved that new revised policy? So I just kind of want to frame why this is coming to us tonight by you approving in alignment with the CSBA recommendation, which is in alignment with the new law, the policy around graduation requirements. You now position the staff to advance the work that is the design for the implementation that will move forward. So in the next item, I'm kind of front loading the next item. Yeah, before you, because you're not voting tonight. That's the other thing. So going back to explicit timeline, as with all policies, our protocol is policy goes to the policy revisions, changes, new policies go to the policy committee. That just recently happened. Then it comes to the full board for review, introduction, and presentation. And then at the subsequent board meeting, it is then taken for action. Tonight, the board is not taking action on the graduation, high school graduation requirements. Tonight, we are introducing the item. In item J1B, that full policy packet is being presented to the public and to the school board. But given the importance of high school graduation requirements, I requested that staff, we elevate that element of this quarterly update and that we give an explicit presentation on high school graduation requirements, because it's not for us being transparent and explicit in our work. We did not feel like we just wanted to include it in the general packet, which without elevating the dialogue that was just presented by Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings, Director Reddy, and providing the board to ask the specific questions and provide the comments that you have just recently provided. So that's the sequence of events. Assuming the board takes action on January 19th and approving this policy update, which will come as a full packet. You're not going to hear another presentation. It will be embedded in that policy packet. Then that again positions the instructional division to continue to advance with the work. And what will come before you in future subsequent meetings between February, May, maybe up until June, depending on the pace of the work, is all the discussion around the course development, the discussion around the curriculum, the discussion around the professional development plan, and how we're going about staffing teachers to be able to deliver on these courses as well. So that's the plan, and we are consistently communicating about the plan internally right now with our staff, and we look forward to bringing all that work forward, assuming you approve this preliminary recommendation, or not the recommendation around policy is not preliminary.
It's the graduation.
That is the recommendation as reviewed by the policy committee. But it is tethered to these potential recommendations that will come down the road. And we wanted to sunshine them with you in relation to the policy recommendation that we're bringing forth.
Thank you, Dr. Massetti, for that clarification. I have been asked by a fellow trustee to take a 5-minute break. So we will see you in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience. We are now moving on under General Services to 1B, Introduction to California School Board Associations, CSBA, Recommended Policy Updates, September 2022.
This is just an introduction of the packet. They'll be brought for action at the January meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all. We have reviewed those policy updates within the board agenda. Thank you very much. We move on to business services. Assistant Superintendent Mangwala. Are you with us?
I am. Thank you. Mr. Jordan, can you please bring up the presentation? Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to update the board and the community about our first update to our budget, which is also referred to as first interim. Next slide, please. There's definitely a storm brewing in the economy. The economic outlook for the next 12 months looks nothing like it did for the prior 12 months. Even though a full recession is not likely in the next 12 months, the economy will look dramatically different than the previous 12 months. We have had unprecedented revenue growth over the last 2 years. California's big three taxes, personal income, corporate, and sales tax grew 30% and 20% over the last 2 years. Next slide, please. At budget adoption, we spoke about the spectacular growth of Prop 98 revenues and that revenues would likely return to the historic trend. This is clearly occurring right now. The question is, how far below the trend will we go? If we use the 2008 recession as a guide, revenues will drop far below the trend in the next couple of years and stay there for some time. Next slide, please. While the California economy is one of the largest economies in the world, at last check, it was about number 5. Policy at the national level drives much of our economic engine. The labor market is very strong, especially in education. Potential gross domestic product is 1.9%. The biggest challenge is inflation. Hopefully, over the next year or so, it will drop down to low single digits. The Federal Reserve is currently still very aggressively raising interest rates at a historic rate. The Fed usually has a really bad history of overshooting their target, which means that there will likely be a recession that happens when they're done. Next slide, please. So again, the most significant risk for the economy right now will continue to be inflation. It is showing some signs of slowing down a little bit, but again, there's a lot of things that are outside of everyone's control. The Federal Reserve is trying to manage it with the tool they have, which is interest rates. But this has the negative impact of decreasing the value of assets such as stocks, real estate, business earnings. As a result, again, revenues at the state, federal level will have to return to historic growth rates and even contract below historic growth rates. Next slide. Since the primary funding for LCFF districts like Napa come from state revenues, we must understand the fiscal conditions and the budget outlook. Revenues are coming in significantly lower than projections. Revenues for the next 3-year budget is anticipated to come in at about negative $42 billion. For 23-24 alone, we're looking at $24 billion. The major risks, again, to the economy continue to be inflation, global supply chain issues, tight labor market, negative impact of Federal Reserve monetary policy, and the Ukraine-Russian war. Next slide. The big question is, will there be cuts to the state education budget? If the revenue shortfall is less than $24 billion, there are not likely to be large cuts. As a matter of fact, there's a pretty good chance that the state will be able to fund a COLA in the 8% range, but we're watching this very closely. Again, revenues right now are currently coming in at about negative $2 billion per month. Next slide. So the state budget, it currently has what's referred to as a crumple zone. A crumple zone is essentially a buffer in the budget due to all of the one-time programs and one-time money that will disappear over the next year. They have a little wiggle room. So even the revenues for the state education budget will come in much lower than anticipated. These one-time programs will simply crumple or go away. which will lead to much less cuts under Prop 98. Next slide. So if revenues come in where we anticipate, the K-12 budget for 2023 will not be able to fund any new programs other than the voter-approved Prop 28 Arts Grant. I will be speaking about that additionally later tonight. There will be a separate presentation about it. But again, the big question is how much of the COLA will we be able to fund? So will it be 8%? Will it be less? We know that inflation will still likely be, for the next fiscal year, be somewhere between 8 and 10%. 8 is probably the low end. So again, the goal is to fund as much of the inflationary factor as possible. Next slide. This slide summarizes some of the challenges that we spoke about in budget adoption. So again, the biggest challenges are inflation, supply chain bottlenecks, volatility in the stock market, and the real estate market also, which we're seeing a pretty significant downward trend, the Russian-Ukraine war, and labor shortages, which we'll talk about on the next slide. Next slide, please. So we know that one of the primary drivers of the success of our students are high-quality employees, which is why the labor shortage in education will be an enormous hurdle that we need to address. We'll need to put significant effort into attracting and retaining employees. While job stability and pensions worked in the past, we are finding that employees are more interested in very competitive compensation, healthcare, and greater work flexibility. Next slide, please. While the population in California is anticipated to increase, the labor force will not. When you examine the California population by age, you can see that our future pool of employees is flat or even shrinking. However, the 64 plus age group, which typically is not in the labor force, is growing. This means that employers in California will need to be more flexible, recruit from out of state, and also offer more remote work where possible. Next slide. Like the labor market shortage, the housing market shortage is being driven by factors that are largely outside of the control of school districts. The housing shortage in California is a primary driver of declining enrollment. When you examine the number of housing units needed, California builds far less than what is needed to sustain the population. Next slide. The enrollment decline is anticipated to be about 500,000 students, or almost 9%. This does vary by county. Next slide. The enrollment decline is a statewide problem, according to the California Department of Finance. Enrollment has declined for 5 consecutive years. Through 21-22, the Department of Finance also predicts over the next 10 years a decline of almost 500,000 students. Enrollment decline is expected to decrease from 5.8 million students to 5.3 million by 2030-31. Next slide. This slide shows counties in California with the top 10 enrollment declines. The county with the largest decline is LA County. Unfortunately, Napa County is projected to have the 9th largest decline over the next 10 years. This is definitely a list that you don't want to be on. So again, Napa has lots of challenges going forward with this anticipated enrollment decline. Next slide. When you examine enrollment in Napa Unified from 2016-17, you can see that we'll lose over 3,000 students by 26-27. And so this is well underway right now. Next slide. The summary of our unrestricted budget is depicted in this slide. Some of the highlights include a balanced budget for the current year, but projected deficit spending for year 2 and year 3. We will need to watch this trend and make adjustments. It's also important to note that while we'll see growth in revenues between the base year and year 2, there is projected to be an actual decline in revenues for year 3. This is due to declining enrollment. Had the budget not included new legislation that allows us to use an average daily attendance calculated over 3 years, this drop in revenues would be much, much worse. Next slide. The following slides talk about our assumptions. So in terms of assumptions, there's a little bit of uncertainty about whether TK will be funded at 24 per classroom or 20 per classroom. We'll need to watch that one a little bit closely. The COLA where we are assuming right now will be 6.56%, 5.3%, and 4%. We'll find out more about that when the governor announces his budget proposal in January. Again, the big question is how much of the inflationary factor will they fund? At this point, we've heard language around 8%, even though inflation is sitting between 8 and 10. LCFF funding is calculated based on a 3-year average. Step and calm is assumed to be equal to 2%. And we've also put aside some funding for our NVUSD compensation formula. Next slide. Our recommendations and next steps include approving a positive certification. Both certificated and classified cuts will need to occur. However, these cuts will likely match our natural level of attrition. If you look at the number of teachers we have in our system and you adjust it for declining enrollment, we anticipate that we'll need about 10 to 15 less teachers for next year. Most likely this will just occur through attrition. There's some shifting that goes on too, but we will be watching that very closely as we watch enrollment through the year. We'll need to continue to make sure that the number of our facilities matches the number of students. And so another component here where we're advocating to slow down and look slowly is that we really need to understand the increased enrollment of TK students and the impact it will have on our facilities. So as we need less facilities for the upper grade levels in elementary, we'll need more for TK and K for at least the next 4 years. After that time period, TK enrollment and K enrollment will max out, so there'll be less of an impact. We need to continue to be fiscally conservative. The new ADA calculation will just simply give districts more time to respond to declining enrollment, but it will not eliminate the issue. LCFF districts are using a 3-year average ADA that is also inflated due to the pandemic hold harmless ADA. As you recall, prior to the pandemic, or I should say during the pandemic, all school districts were given a fixed average daily attendance. When they went to a 3-year average, essentially locked in an average of 3 years of the same year, which is why school districts over the next couple of years will see an inflated ADA. But then we'll have to make large adjustments in 24-25. 24-25 will be the first year where we're not funded on the pandemic ADA. And with that, I go to questions.
I have a question about our budget assumptions. On page 96, we see an increase in number for ADA from the budget adoption in the current year and then in the subsequent year. And I appreciate that this increase is well explained in the report. However, in year 3, we are projecting those increases to get entirely wiped out with a massive decline. Going from positive 5% to a negative 2% is a 7% swing in ADA. The 7% swing is not explained on page 96. Only the 2 years of increases are explained. So my question is, why is the ADA decline in year 3 so bad?
Well, this has to, very good question, Trustee Gracia. So this has to do with the way averages are calculated over a period of time. So, again, in the past, when you looked at average daily attendance, we were able to use the higher of the current year or the prior year. So you would expect when you do an enrollment projection, essentially, or in this case, an ADA projection, the rate of enrollment decline pretty much match the rate of ADA decrease. Meaning if your ADA percentage held the same at 95%, if your enrollment is dropping by 3%, then your ADA should drop by 3% also over time. But what we have here is we have an inflated ADA that was locked at a 3-year average, a pre-pandemic level, where it's dropping off year by year, 1/3 every year, 1/3 the following year. And so what you're seeing is this large ADA cliff, which everyone is talking about, where in 24-25, there will be a reckoning for school districts as this pre-pandemic level ADA completely drops off.
Does that mean that if we had projected to year 4, it would be even worse?
Yes, it would, Trustee Gracia.
So I'm deeply concerned about this fiscal cliff we are facing in year 3, as that is the year, it sounds like the majority of our COVID hold harmless expires. Even with the benefits of this 3-year averaging, the effects we see in year 3 are devastating to our budget. We deficit spend in 24-25 by nearly $20 million. I would like to focus on what can be done to ameliorate that fiscal cliff so we are not so far upside down.
Thank you very much for your suggestion. We will be watching that closely, making adjustments and bringing recommendations to the board as we progress through time.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comprehensive overview of the economic landscape and its impact on first interim. It's important to remember, it's important for the community to remember that one-time funds are just that, and some that were under consideration for continuation will be limited or revoked as the state grapples with, as of now, a $24 billion projected education deficit. The reality, as we have continually stated, is one-time monies were critically helpful, but one-time monies do not fix long-term issues. It cannot be ignored that we are ranked 9th in enrollment decline in the state. Those numbers are dramatic. It is difficult to assess impact while we wait for the feds. There's one more meeting this year, but as Rob stated, whether it's 50 basis points or 75 remains in the balance. Inflation has been running ahead of the Fed's goal, so we shall see. And a gentle reminder to the community members that have recently contacted me regarding one-time monies. I'd like to remind everyone they are and were restricted. They have specificity, they cannot be used on facilities, and should not be used to create long-term programs that are not financially sustainable without continued state funding. 85% of our budget is allocated to personnel. Retention and support of our teachers, as Rob stated, is critical, especially within the context of existing staffing shortages. We have fixed costs, and the importance of a healthy cash reserve has never been as evident as it is now. We are not flirting with solvency issues, and we've addressed many of the financial issues within our control that were plaguing the district. Districts across the state that were not responsive to the realities of declining enrollment are now having to be responsive, could not effectively use their COVID dollars, and are now closing schools in this post-pandemic environment. Our strategic approach in addressing enrollment and facilities capacity allowed us to effectively leverage our COVID funding. Yet we are still looking at potential operating deficits in year 2 and 3. Even with the positive impact of TK, we have declining kinder enrollment. And I know, as we always continually state, overall declining enrollment, no facilities dollars from the state, no A1 bond dollars. We will need to continually, actively exercise financial stewardship as we navigate economic and funding uncertainties. 2024-25 is when declining enrollment intersects with the termination of hold harmless ADA and has real budget impact. There are bright spots. We are well positioned to do the educational work. We have a solid cash reserve, and we are financially positioned to be able to proactively make decisions rather than where many districts sit, having to be reactive. And that was validated through many of the CSBA sessions.
Yes.
Sorry, do you have any public comment on this item, Ms. Green?
Yes, Norma Ortiz, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Hello, I also wanted to say something regarding the health and ethnic studies.
Ms. Ortiz.
I tried to talk. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this item too, but can I also address the health and ethnic studies portion in the same comment?
I'm so sorry to be such a rule follower, but we really cannot do that, but you can address the budget.
I just was raising my hand, but I didn't get called. Okay. So let's see. Okay, in terms of the shortages and the hiring process in attracting and retaining new employees, pay is low in some positions, not necessarily at the upper level, leadership level, but compared to the cost of living and also to other districts, that's something that I think is important to consider. And of course, more competitive pay. Would the scenario that has been brought up by the department regarding the budget and all these items. Would this bring the possibility of a future school closure? That's something that I would like to know. I mean, it's probably very premature to anticipate, but I would like more information in that context if possible. And also the layout in terms of the increase in intra-district transfers, like the numbers and enrollment, and how all of that can support the conversations that are being held in terms of the ADA. Thank you.
Ms. Green, do we have any additional public comment?
There is no additional comment on this item.
Thank you very much.
Ms.
Assistant
Green?
Super.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, there you are. Welcome back. Moving on to Prop 28 Arts Program presentation.
Ms. Green, can you please pull up the presentation? Thank you so much. Next slide, please. According to a recent EdSource article, arts education in California has been floundering since the late 1970s when Proposition 13 decimated funding for public schools. For decades, arts programs were among the first programs that were cut as cash-strapped districts struggled to balance their budgets. In order to address this, Prop 28 was placed on the November ballot and overwhelmingly passed. Prop 28 will provide a historic investment in the arts and music on an ongoing basis with permanent funding. So this is a permanent funding change. Next slide, please. Proposition 28 sets aside 1% of the general fund budget specifically for arts and music education. These are restricted funds. It will result in a re-benchmarking of Prop 98, which guarantees K-12 and community college funding a minimum of 40%. So we should essentially move up to 41% of the general fund. Funds for education and other educational programs should not be cut to fund it. This is something separate. Next slide. Allocation of Prop 28 funds at the district level is based on both enrollment and free and reduced lunch counts. At the district level, our total funding is estimated to exceed $2.5 million. But this will vary based on the state budget because it will always be 1% of the state budget. So it will vary year to year. Funds will be allocated at the site level and will require site plans, which we will bring to the board. Initial allocation amounts, again, they'll vary quite a bit, anywhere from about $40,000 to $100,000 at the elementary level, and close to $300,000 at our large high schools. These are ongoing funds. We do have a preliminary estimate. It is based on old data and even does reference schools that were closed because they were using data from last year's CalPads. So the governor's budget, we will get more accurate numbers. And so again, these are just estimates at this point in time. Next slide, please. Prop 28 funds are highly restricted and are intended to be spent on art programs. Examples of eligible programs include expenditures for a variety of arts related to subjects, including dance, media, music, theater, and various types of visual arts, including photography, crafts, computer coding, graphics, and robotics. Funds are intended to be spent on new expenditures. The term that we use in the business office is supplement, and not existing expenditures or supplant for arts and music, and used primarily to hire new art staff. New staff include both certificated and classified personnel. Next slide. Expenditures of these funds require the development of a plan by the school principal. The district will work with sites to encourage alignment and economies of scale. Smaller school sites will need to share human resources due to the allocation amounts. The language specifically says, and I personally think this is a mistake, I can't prove it, but it says For local education associations with greater than 500 students, 80% of the funds must be used to employ certificated or classified employees. In my mind, it probably would have made more sense if it said not LEAs, but schools with greater than 500 students. It will be very challenging for schools to spend 80% of their money, i.e. 80% of $40,000, which is about $30,000 on employees. It'll take a high level of coordination between the business office, human resources, and the site. Funding will be received annually, but can be spent up to 3 years. So there's no rule that we have to start spending next year. We're going to work towards that and make sure that we have everything put in place, but the funds do roll over. This is a restricted fund that does roll over. No more than 1% may be spent on administrative expenses. An annual report is required to be submitted to the board along with posting on the district websites. Next slide. So again, this is a great opportunity for our community. We're all very excited about this new proposition. Executive Cabinet has started to meet already to pre-plan with the information we know right now, and then we will meet much more after we know additional details after the governor's budget, which is at the end of January. Again, some of the considerations, these are site developed plans. They're highly restricted. What we're looking at doing too is ensuring alignment with our arts master plan. Instruction will be working very closely with the principals to make sure that this occurs. The requirement to spend 80% of the money employees, an annual update to the board and the website, and then we will need to share human resources across sites. Next slide. I think that's the final slide. And with that, I open to questions.
Trustee Reiser, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering about the timing. Are we talking about next school year that we can start implementing this additional funding? Is it going to roll in?
Yes.
When are they going to shut down?
Well, it's typical, like other restricted programs. We'll have eligibility to spend next year for the next fiscal year. The money will likely land with our normal allocations. We'll just lend the money to the program like we do with other programs.
And then my other, I don't know if it's really a question, but just a concern, is just about managing the expectations, because this is such a feel-good win, this Prop 28, and we need it, and the kids deserve it, and I'm thrilled that it passed, but I just wonder about the reality of filling all those positions. If we have to spend 80% of the money on personnel, and this is a statewide proposition, I can only imagine that the market for employees is going to be pretty competitive. So I don't know if you can speak to that yet, or if it's too premature, or yes, Director Page, Assistant Superintendent Page, but I just more wanted to kind of surface that for the community that might be listening, that this is not going to be, I'm imagining, like a wave the wand and now there's, we've tripled the arts in all of our schools and all the teachers are trained and the kids are thrilled. It's a process. So I just wanted to kind of give the team a chance to speak to that a little bit, to illuminate it for the community.
Ms. Page.
No, I don't have any solutions to offer that yet. You're right. It will be a challenge to find these teachers, particularly as the entire state will be looking for them. This is happening in a number of areas, TK area where this is also happening. So we're monitoring it. We're hoping to get plans from schools as quickly as possible so that we can be at the front end of hiring. But it will be a challenge. Thank you for illuminating that.
Thank you, Trustee Reiser. Okay. We are moving on now to instructional services. Oh, do we have any public comment on Prop 28, Ms. Green?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you very much. And moving on to instructional services, the early learning programs presentation. And we welcome Director Manning and Assistant Superintendent Pat Andrew Jennings and Executive Director Massetti.
Well, good evening again. Ms. Green, can you please put up the slide presentation? Good evening again. The Instructional Support Services Division is excited to present information about our early learning program. Director Matt Manning, the Elementary Director of Curriculum Instruction and English Learner Services, will begin the presentation. And with that, I'm going to toss to him, and he and Executive Director Massetti will take the lead.
Thank you very much, Assistant Superintendent Andrew Jennings. Next slide, please. Thank you. Good evening, President Jankowicz, Board of Trustees, Dr. Massetti, Student Board Member Gomez, and the NVUSD community. Our objective with this presentation is to share our progress toward meeting the success criteria outlined in Annual Board Priority 3, focused on strengthening early learning programs. I will share information about the transitional kindergarten expansion, and Ms. Massetti will present on the special education program transition that she and her team have been leading. Next slide, please. We continue to make progress toward achieving the success criteria set forth in Annual Board Priority 3. We will address the success indicators. However, the elementary team provided a comprehensive presentation on the 2 success criteria related to K2 phonics instruction and diagnostic assessments at the recent Elementary Literacy Programs Board Study session. So tonight, I will speak to those as they relate to the program we are building for transitional kindergarten. Next slide, please. I have shared this image previously and want to provide a reminder of the context in which we are expanding our TK program in NVUSD. Universal Pre-Kindergarten is an umbrella term that includes the California State Preschool Program, transitional kindergarten, as well as Head Start, community-based preschool programs, early learning services for students with disabilities, and private preschools. Transitional kindergarten is a free program for age-eligible 4-year-old children that will be available to all 4-year-old children by the 2025-26 school year. Parents may choose to enroll their children in a TK program or another pre-kindergarten program. TK is not mandatory for children, but it is an excellent option for families because it provides us in the TK-12 school system with an opportunity to welcome our children into our schools early and begin to build a solid foundation for success in kindergarten and beyond. Next slide, please. So the California Department of Education has articulated a very compelling rationale for the state's significantly increased investment in transitional kindergarten through Assembly Bill 22. The goal is to ensure that every 4-year-old child, regardless of background, race, zip code, immigration status, or income level, has access to a high-quality learning experience the year before kindergarten. Next slide, please. This slide provides an overview of the implementation schedule. You'll see that we are currently serving students who turn 5 by February 2nd, 2023. And for next year, we are now enrolling students who turn 5 by April 2nd, 2024. As we build our TK program, we are preparing to serve students who will enter our schools at a younger age with different developmental needs than the students we have historically served. We look forward to ultimately welcoming many more 4-year-old children into our schools. Next slide, please. We thought a lot about the developmental as well as academic needs of this new age group when we created our NVUSD vision for transitional kindergarten last year. This vision and the core tenets of our program that I will share next serve as an anchor for the program development process unfolding this year. I want to note that we are fortunate to be building on a solid foundation that the NVUSD TK program that has already been in place since 2012. Next slide, please. The TK program is standards-based, developmentally appropriate with a structure that incorporates multiple learning modalities. The program supports all aspects of the California Preschool Learning Foundation, which are the standards that are currently used at the TK level in California. Not only do our teachers provide a strong foundation for kindergarten, but we are intentional in aligning to our K-5 system. It is essential for both our 4- and 5-year-olds that we provide developmentally appropriate experiences and instruction. Teachers achieve this through play-based learning that allows students to explore and make meaning of academic content. We provide a mixture of whole group, small group, and individualized instruction in all modalities: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile. Next slide, please. This year, a TK leadership team has been established, and the team is working together to operationalize our TK vision and program tenets. The leadership team is guided by 3 driving questions. What do we want our TK program to stand for in NVUSD? How can we provide consistent and aligned experiences and instruction across this growing program? And how can we convey the program structure and tenets to our current and prospective parents? Next slide, please. So far this year, we have reviewed the California Preschool Learning Foundations and identified priority standards for each section. These standards address social emotional development, language and literacy, where we are placing a strong emphasis on oral language development, English language development, mathematics, and foundations in physical development. We are evaluating our current curriculum and additional curriculum options with a focus on determining the best resources to support teaching the identified NVUSD priority standards. Our next steps this year are to align grading practices, revise the current progress report to reflect the TK priority standards that we're selecting now, and to provide parents with a more holistic view of their TK learner. We are building a TK assessment system and will adopt a professional learning plan for the coming years. Next slide, please. As we move into next year and beyond, we will implement the TK curriculum scope and sequence that we are designing this year and continue to refine as we differentiate from multiple developmental levels. We look forward to having a consistent curriculum and set of resources for all TK classrooms. We will need to continue to calibrate around TK grading practices as that work will be ongoing. Teacher recruitment and preparation will remain a key area of focus in partnership with the Human Resources Department, and we will provide ongoing professional learning for our TK teachers. Next slide, please. I think I forgot to, no, there we go. Okay. Mike Pearson and the operational services team have conducted a facilities audit this year to determine where space exists to expand the TK program next year. We currently have TK classrooms at the sites listed on the left and TK kindergarten combination classrooms at the sites listed on the right. This total of 13 classrooms represents an increase over last year when we only had 7 classrooms with TK students. Next slide, please. We have some important expansion milestones that we are working toward, the first of which is, again, the facilities audit that is now complete. We are currently working on the 5-year plan that involves multiple departments. The expansion is enrollment driven, so we are using demographer projections and open enrollment trends to plan for next year and the years ahead. There is a projected, next slide, please. Thank you. There is a projected need for 260 TK seats in Napa and 95 in American Canyon next year. The anticipated TK class size for next year is 20 students per classroom, resulting in 13 classrooms in Napa and 5 classrooms in American Canyon. And as Assistant Superintendent Manguala mentioned, we don't know what the class size will be yet, but we need to plan for the smaller class size. We anticipate the need for at least 1 TK classroom at all elementary schools. However, the enrollment team is still monitoring enrollment trends and will determine exact classroom placement. Next slide, please. Another important success indicator in the TK expansion is the recruitment of TK students through an enrollment marketing campaign. The communications team has done a phenomenal job developing marketing materials to inform parents of the TK option available to them. The marketing campaign is grounded in developing awareness of the program, generating interest among families, and supporting families in taking action to enroll their children in TK. Next slide, please. The communications team is leveraging digital advertising and social media, as is reflected here. And video, next slide, please. And video messaging in both Spanish and English has been developed to inform and encourage families to enroll in TK. This video here features our own superintendent, Dr. Massetti, and we'll play that now for all of us to watch together. You want to go ahead and play the English version, please?
The adventure begins in transitional kindergarten. Our 4-year-old TK program provides our youngest learners with a nurturing, safe classroom environment that encourages curiosity, creativity, critical thinking, and a lifelong love of learning. A credentialed teacher and aide support each student as they become capable, confident learners. Before and after care is also available at most school sites. Learn more and see for yourself. Visit NVUSD.org to find your school and enroll today.
Thank you for the great welcoming explanation of our TK program. It's awesome. Next slide, please.
All in 30 seconds.
Right, all in 30 seconds. There is also a TK, back one slide. There's also a TK webpage, a direct link on our NVUSD homepage and radio advertisement. Again, I appreciate all that the communications team has done to spread the word about transitional kindergarten and so beautifully capture the sense of immense pride that we feel in this expanding program. With that, I will pass to Executive Director Massetti, who will share information about the special education preschool transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Manning. Next slide, please. So prior to this school year, the Napa Valley Unified School District contracted with Napa County Office of Education to provide special education services for students aged 3 to 5. This included the assessment, determination of eligibility, and all services for students who were determined to be eligible. This past year, we completed an in-depth study on the special education department. A recommendation was made to the board for Napa Valley Unified School District to provide those services directly to our students. This decision was well-timed as it fell into alignment with the expansion of the universal transition kindergarten that Director Manning just described. It creates an opportunity for a smoother transition for students who require additional supports from transition to preschool to transition kindergarten to kindergarten, as it allows NVUSD special education teams the opportunity to get to know our students and their needs from the very first day. Next slide, please. This school year began our transition year. We have set systems in place to reach out to families who will be impacted by these changes. A presentation was made to the Community Advisory Committee on May 16th. NVUSD held a listening session for families on August 29th and returned for a follow-up discussion with the CAC on September 19th. As a follow-up for the feedback that we received from both that listening session and the CAC meetings, NVUSD began a special education parent advisory committee. We've met in September, October, November, and continue to have meetings for next year. In order to have a voice, a preschool parent of a student who just turned 3 has been a part of those parent advisory committee meetings. In addition, NVUSD has initiated our preschool assessment team. As of October 3rd, NVUSD is now completing all of the initial assessments for students who are referred for special education services. This has been a great opportunity for our teams because we are really getting the opportunity to work out this process through the assessment team before we begin to operationalize our services. And we are getting to know our future families from the beginning. Referrals are received from the Napa Infant Program, North Bay Regional Center, pediatric offices, as well as from individual parents. Through the end of June, students who are found to be eligible are still receiving their services through Napa County Office of Education. Next slide, please. So beginning July 1st, we will be providing all of our services to all of our students aged 3 through 5. In order to do this, we are utilizing the existing preschool classrooms at Phillips, Shear, and Napa Junction elementary schools. They're excellent facilities, and we look forward to serving our students there. Preschool classes will be offered 3 hours per day, 5 days a week. They will be staffed by an early childhood special education teacher along with 2 instructional support staff. The maximum class size would be 14 students. 4 of those students would be typically developing peers from the community so that we increase our ability to offer an inclusive education environment for all students. The maximum number of students in each class would be 10 with IEPs. Next slide, please. In addition to this, we are anticipating the need for a self-contained transition kindergarten classroom. This classroom would again be staffed by a teacher with an early childhood special education credential, although an education specialist could also teach that class. The maximum size for this class would be 14 students with 2 instructional support staff. We are not sure where this class will be because our interest is to make sure it is at a site that has a general education transition kindergarten class so that the 2 classes can team together for an inclusive education environment. So we're waiting for those numbers from enrollment to find out exactly where those classes will be. In addition, we allow students that are enrolled in general education transition kindergarten classrooms who require the support from an early childhood this is a mouthful, early childhood special education specialist or an education specialist throughout the district. Next slide, please. We will also find the need to support students who are in community preschool programs or not yet enrolled in a preschool program who have additional service needs like speech and language alone, or students who require less academic support. These will be addressed through small playgroup sessions, and also with integrated support with our partners through Child Start and state preschool programs. We'll point out, next slide, please. Sorry, I got a little off topic. So looking at the numbers of students that are eligible right now gives us an idea of what's to come. So these are the numbers as of November 29th. So it's a snapshot of students at that moment. There are a total of 191 students right now eligible in age 3 through 5, living within the Napa Valley Unified School District boundaries. The top box talks about the students who are eligible for speech and language only services. I want to share that our current speech therapists have told us very clearly that the pandemic had a huge impact on students' articulation development. So we are seeing an increase of students who are eligible for only speech and language services. The wearing of masks during those critical developmental years, students have not learned how to correctly form their sounds. And we can see this in this number because there are 96 students currently age 3 through 5 eligible for speech and language services. The good news is that these students are easily being targeted and remedied and able to return to the general education environment. Currently, there are 95 students who are eligible for additional services beyond speech and language. What we are seeing at this time of the year is the majority of those will be kindergarten age at the beginning of next school year. And that's the trend I would expect to see, because one of the differences that we will find with preschool is that students become eligible throughout the year. In a TK through 12 environment, students enroll in August and you kind of know who you have for the remainder of the school year. In a preschool environment, as students turn 3, we offer an IEP to them on their 3rd birthday. So you are constantly enrolling students as the year progresses. Next slide, please. To support our parents and families in making the move to Napa Valley Unified School District, we held a matriculation support meeting on October 11th. This meeting was offered both virtually and in person. And it was recorded so that families could access it either way on the night and also have access to it ongoing. It was offered in English and Spanish so that all families have access to the maximum extent that we can. The recording has been shared with the administrators at the current preschool program. In addition, the enrollment center was here that night and began enrolling families during the matriculation night. It was really exciting to watch our families begin to join Napa Valley Unified School District. We'll continue to outreach to our community partners to help with the enrollment. And currently, Napa Valley Unified School District leadership staff from the special education department are attending every single preschool IEP meeting that is happening so that we can encourage enrollment at that time and so that we can meet our families and know more about our students before they come to us. Next slide, please. We are going to need staff to support these students as they come, and staff recruitment has already begun for this program. Napa Valley Unified Leadership, Dana Page, Pat Andrew Jennings, and I have met with the Napa County Office of Education current preschool staff on September 30th and October 31st. We posted the positions for the current County Office of Education staff to apply to work with NVUSD. And we have already extended offers of employment to all of the early childhood special education teachers that we believe that we will need, and to 3 speech therapists. Speech therapists are hard to find. We will continue to recruit for more of them. We've already reposted the position, and I recruit in every conversation that I have everywhere that I am. In addition, we will need to continue to recruit for psychologists, as the one psychologist currently working for Napa County Office of Education has relocation plans for next year. Next slide, please. So in the months to come, we will continue to meet with the current preschool staff to ensure a smooth transition to our new classroom settings. We have many matriculation IEP meetings planned between February and June so that families have the opportunity to meet with us and ask questions about the move into Napa Valley Unified School District. Spring is the time where we lead many tours for many families so that they and their children feel very comfortable coming to our sites. We will continue to work with human resources to actively recruit for the psychologist, the speech language pathologist, interpreters, and instructional support staff. Those are all hard to fill positions, and we'll find them if you know of anybody. And finally, we will be working to prepare our facilities for our new students and our new employees. Next slide, please. Thank you. We are welcoming questions.
We have to make a motion to extend the meeting. It's now 10:30.
Second.
First by Trustee Water, second by Trustee Gracia. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. I apologize.
That's okay. I just wanted to make a few quick comments. I just want to thank and appreciate our preschool assessment team that launched in October. So Shannon Church, Talia Yates, Gigi Castro, and Debbie Duplantis, they have been critical in getting the preschool assessment team off the ground, and they are located at McPherson School. So they have a nice welcoming space for our families that they're assessing. So I want to thank them. I also want to thank our TK leadership team that Matt Manning has put together to help and support our TK expansion. And then also I just want to thank Joanne Murphy and Jackie Kirk Martinez, who have been our consultants that we've worked with, especially on the preschool transition. They've been providing a lot of support to us, and we just are grateful for their help. So, and then also, of course, Executive Director Terry Lynn, Massetti, and Matt Manning for their work on these new programs. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Matt, I do have one quick question. What is a TK grading practice?
A TK grading practice. So it looks different than a kindergarten through 5th grade grading practice. So there are standards. So we evaluate student progress based against those standards that come from the preschool learning foundations. But with a TK program, we want to assess students more holistically to look at how they're progressing developmentally, their social interactions with other students, their ability to cross the midline, all these things that we think about in the much lower grades. So the grading practices are really around aligning and calibrating around that so that TK teachers across our system are evaluating students in the same way and using the same measures.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Jim.
So I have to say that for the first time, Canyon Oaks has TK students. They're so cute. But I did hear it's a little difficult with having a mixed TK and kinder classroom. So is the plan to have TK classrooms, just TK classrooms, and not have that? Because I know it's a difficult age group. I mean, even K1 combo classes are difficult. So is the idea then to have just standalone TK classrooms across the board, or what is the what are you hoping that we can? I mean, I know it's dependent on enrollment, but
so that's absolutely our hope and what we're planning for and building for. So as TK students enroll, then our goal is the enrollment team's goal in partnership with the instructional services team is to open up whole TK classrooms. That isn't always going to be possible as students can enroll throughout the school year and as the school year begins. So I can't say that there won't be any TK combination classrooms, TK kinder combination classrooms. But our goal with Enrollment Center, there's a commitment to reduce that number and keep that at an absolute minimum.
Great. And my next question is actually for the special ed services. I know that McPherson is a site for the evaluations. Is there any plans to have maybe like every once in a while to come down to American Canyon to make it accessible for some of those families?
Yes, I've thought about that. And as we continue to move forward, if we can identify a space, it could be something we look at in order to make that a little bit easier for families. When it comes to services, that is the point. That is why we have Napa Junction as one of the identified sites, in addition to having a speech therapist who is located in American Canyon so that families don't have the travel time.
And for the TK self-contained classrooms, you said location to be determined. Are you anticipating only one site or multiple sites, or what's the thought on that?
Based on the numbers that I've seen historically and what we've seen as the need, I would think that we will probably only have the need for one TK special day class that is self-contained. And I know that we've tried to move that to American Canyon in the past, and we found that we were transporting more students down to the classroom than we would have been transporting students to Napa. So it will likely be in Napa. But you never know. I look at it every year to look at where the children live.
And will transportation be involved, or how does, I don't know how that works for transportation. I know parents are usually, more involved in transporting kids at that age. So how do we deal with that?
Transportation is always a consideration. We look at eligibility based under Ed Code and the law with regards to transportation to access special education services. But I do know that our transportation department does currently provide some of those services for County Office of Education students in the preschool program.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Trustee Chu. Thank you very much. Oh, excuse me, one moment. Trustee Gracia.
Yeah, so I wanted to recognize the academic focus of our TK plan, but wanted to ask if we're in danger of indexing too hard into academics and not supplying sufficient playtime in TK. Do you feel like that's a concern?
I think if we were to continue with the same program that we've had in place, our curriculum really does lean towards the academic component, but we're building a program that's very much play-based and really leaning into the preschool foundational standards is going to ensure that we have more of that play-based environment. We're actually purchasing materials that really look and feel like that play-based environment is coming to life for students. So we're conscious of that as we're building the program.
I appreciate the district's efforts to standardize the TK experience across the district. So I think that will be a really great situation once it comes to fruition. I'm also pleased to hear about the good progress the district is making on our transition to being the preschool special education provider in NVUSD. So that sounds very positive.
I agree with that. I celebrate the goal and vision from the CD Early Education Division. I love that slide. And I celebrate our commitment to the rollout of these programs and the benefits that will be provided to our children. It is an opportunity for strong foundational success in the development of tools needed for their educational journey, all good things. On the heels of first interim, I just must acknowledge the very complicated relationship between the state and school districts. The introduction and mandate of universal TK is wonderful and welcomed, but this is a semi-funded mandate and the state did not allow for a timeline for districts that supports facility reviews, nor the funds for facility transformations, nor were districts afforded the gift of time, one of Dr. Massetti's favorite terms. So given these constraints, I want to thank the committee, instruction and facilities for their work on creating a comprehensive student-centric plan within the difficult framework that you were given in timeline. So thank you.
And Director Reddy and Director Rossetti, we had Reddy earlier.
All of you people.
Oh yeah, all of you. Director Rossetti, Director Manning, thank you so much for your hard work. I think this is a prime example of when the board sets an annual priority. This is annual priority 3 around early learning programs. You just see how much lift there has been since that priority was set this summer to the mid-year point here in in December, as we close up sort of the first semester of the year, how much work has been accomplished. So thank you for working with such diligence and such focus on getting those progress indicators clearly accomplished. We're clearly on track. So thank you.
And I do need to ask Ms. Green if there was any public comment on this item.
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you very much. We are now moving on to action items. First being general services resolution 2316, authorizing continued use of remote teleconferencing provisions pursuant to AB 361 and Government Code Section 54953.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia.
Second.
Second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Ms. Presley, we need a roll call vote, please.
Student Board Member Gomez,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Riser,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Morris,
Aye.
Trustee Chu.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to let everyone know this is the last time that we will be approving this resolution. We've been approving it every 30 days. There was a change in the Assembly bill that's going to be effective January 1st. And so the rules of the game have changed. So it will no longer require the approval of this. So I'll send a memo to the board so you're aware of the legislative adjustments. But this is the last time.
Okay, thank you very much. On to business services. First interim 22-23.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green, do we have any public comment?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you, Student Board Rep.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Data sharing agreement between NVUSD and Foundation for California Community Colleges.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green,
There is no public comment on this item.
thank you, Student Board Rep.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Aries conversion of legacy databases.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green,
There is no public comment on this item.
thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to human resources, local assignment options for teacher assignments 2022-23.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green,
There is no public comment on this item.
thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Request to hire educator less than fully credentialed.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green,
There is no public comment on this item.
thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to instructional services, agreement between Pat, help me, Elio, Eleo, and NVUSD.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green,
There is no public comment on this item.
thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Agreement between Edficiency and NVUSD.
I'd like some discussion, but I'll move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
I'll second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green,
There is no public comment on this item.
thank you.
I had a question about why Napa High School and American Canyon High School were not included in this item. How did they handle the issue of assigning flex periods?
So they have a different design when it comes to flex that doesn't necessitate an educational tool like this. So for example, Vintage will be using this to as they have periods that are within the day that students move to. And so having an educational tool that helps with determining where students should be and then ensuring that they end up in those spots and receive the responsive services is a need. Whereas at Napa High School, the support is integrated. They have a modified block. So on Thursdays and Fridays, they have longer periods that are 120 minutes. And every period 30 minutes of that is designated for intervention. So students aren't moving, they're receiving it within the class period. And so it doesn't require that educational tool. Similarly with American Canyon High School, their advisory periods connected to their third period class. And so the tool isn't needed there, although there are other schools, middle schools, New Tech High School that use this that we'll look to explore and see how it works and see if there's potential for other schools that have the model similar to Vintage.
So with regard then to the Napa High model, do they have then just a couple of classes on Thursday and then the rest on Friday? Is that how that works?
Yeah, they have, so on a modified block, you have all your classes. The way they have it set up, they have all their classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then on Thursday they have 3 classes, and on Friday they have 3 classes. And so they meet their instructional minutes. They just meet them in a different format. And those extended blocks allow for them to integrate the responsive intervention within the period without having to move students.
Okay, got it. No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Agreement between Turnitin LLC and Napa Valley Unified School District.
So move.
Second.
First by Trustee Water, second by Trustee Gracia. Ms. Green.
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Core instructional material adoption for high schools.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu.
Oh, come on now. That wasn't
Come on.
exciting enough.
Ms. Green.
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to school planning and construction, SPC number 1.6.23, request for updated implementation plan.
Move to approve.
First by
Second.
Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green.
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. SPC number 1.7-23, request for consulting services with Verde Design for assessment of natural grass fields.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green.
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. SBC number 11.1-23, request to call for bids for repairs to the special ed wing windows and door.
Move to approve.
First by Trustee Gracia,
Second.
second by Trustee Chu. Ms. Green.
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student Board Rep,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We move on to the informational section of the evening, general services. There were only notes attached to one committee meeting, facilities and technology, review at your leisure. Additional suggestions and comments from board members and superintendent. I believe we took under advisement your desire for a resolution to be discussed. Trustee Chu, any future agenda items?
So under future agenda items, so the protocol for resolutions would be that first it would go to, that would go to the policy
Policy
committee for discussion and then be brought to the full board. I am totally happy to agendize that for the upcoming policy committee meeting. However, I just for the record want to remind everyone that we did do a significant revision to board policy and administrative regulation 5145.3. Which was anti-discrimination and harassment when we were advancing the work around the pride flags. So I just want to remind everyone that I know resolutions signal, messages to the community, but it is what the most powerful tools that we have are ongoing board policies and administrative regulations. But we'll bring that to discussion at the next policy committee.
Thank you for the clarification. And we are now at adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
First by
Second.
Trustee Gracia, second by
Second.
Trustee Chu, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.